It is 5 p.m., so we will call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. You said moving the agenda. Okay, a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All right, second. All in favor, Mr. Mayor?
Aye.
Vote of the October 8th minutes.
With the removal of the October 8th meeting minutes. Okay, Mr. Mayor, you all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, pass. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Nate. We have Mr. Miller here. So Mr. Jim Miller of Bluffton, South Carolina, is going to talk about the bands of America. And Mr. Miller, thank you for being so understanding in my conversation with you earlier today. You have 3 minutes, sir, and the timer starts now.
Thank you much. I had planned on, you have a handout, looks something like this. I had planned on talking about it, and the good news and the bad news. The good news is that I'm going to go through it very briefly because I'd like to switch to BOA or Bands of America. The good news is we had 2 schools participate in the state contest. This first page shows the results of that. The 2 schools that participated are May River and Bluffton. In Class 4A, May River tied 19th out of 22, and Bluffton tied or finished in the last 22nd place. If you will, the not so good news is we had 4 high schools did not participate in any of the state contest, and every school is eligible with regardless of what kind of a program they have. And the rest of this kind of detail, basically 85% of all 2A, 3A, and 4A schools participated. Going through this, you'll see what schools did and did not, etc. And with that, I'll kind of leave it. But I will say, I maybe should add, and I only got a minute, but I'm a little disappointed, I'll say it, that Battery Creek did not participate. They have a special, the very last page is a special state contest for their marching style, and they did not participate. I would have expected them to do that. I don't know the reason. I learned today that the financial committee is going to look more into this situation because it involves personnel. I would like to attend your next meeting. I have a conflict. I'm going to be volunteering with May River Band and showing them streaming the Bands of America, the National Grand Nationals. It's a contest that goes over 3 days, starts with people, and I'm out.
This would be.
So I'll update you.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Miller. The next item on our agenda is OE 15.
Our next item is the Liaison Middle School easement.
Oh,
And we have a guest that's online that will be presenting that.
Oh,
Mr. Ken Branham. So, Mr. Branham, the floor is yours. If you could describe what the easement request is about.
Sure. hopefully everyone is aware of the project and kind of the scope of the project. And if it's okay, I'm going to try to share my screen.
And I did provide. Well, there you go. Okay, you got it.
Can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is just kind of a blimp view of the overall project. Obviously, you can see here's the school, here's the athletic facilities. Kind of right through here is the proposed new Ladies Island Middle School, or the access road. What the easement or permissions are that we are needing, or we're requesting now, is any work that needs to be done outside of the right of way that is being obtained for the project. So a lot of that, and I'll go over it in detail, a little bit, but a lot of that's going to be where the NPDES, which is the black silt fence that you see at a lot of construction sites, that's to help control the erosion. Any drive, or in this situation, it's actually going to be Cougar Drive, that needs to be tied back in, that's outside of the right-of-way limits. We got to get permissions, to be on the land to do that kind of work. So that's kind of what we're seeking at this point. So, and as I'm going, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. So I'm just going to kind of go down the plans, and then I'm going to show on this blimp view kind of where we're at with these plans. So the first two that I'm going to discuss is tying back into the Cougar Drive. So you can see here, this part in pink and this part in pink, that is a drive construction permission. That is where we are tying back into Cougar Drive. So as part of this construction, we have to marry the Ladies Island Middle School back into Cougar Drive, and it's going to have a little bit of a different shape. So they have to tear up part of the existing Cougar Drive and reshape the new Cougar Drive. They won't, obviously the county is not going to purchase land to tie back into a private road. So that will be done as a permission. That's what this is. The brown right here is the existing Cougar Drive that's being torn up. And then the pink is the tied back in. Also, pink right here, if you can see, is the sidewalk that will go down the side of Cougar Drive. The blue and the green here, that is on the side of the construction. The blue is the NPDES. Again, that's the black silt fence. And the green is the construction limits of the slope that needs to be constructed in order to tie back in this road. Again, the yellow is the obtain. That is what's being obtained for right-of-way. So this work is being done outside of that, and that is why we will need permissions for that. So here on this one, this is the new Ladies Island Middle School access road. Yellow is being obtained as right-of-way. The construction, the NPDES and the slope that will be done as part of the construction is done outside of the right-of-way limits, which is why we need the permissions.
May I ask you a question, Ken?
Absolutely.
Are as part of this, though, you're requesting to obtain the right of way. Well, are you just talking about outside the right of way, because as of right now, the right of way has not been obtained?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have led with that. The whole reason for the permissions and why we're trying to get those now is so prior to us actually ordering the appraisal, we have to get the permissions either agree to, or it's certainly within your right to reject them. if the property owner decides to reject the permissions, then we will attempt to convert them to either a temporary or permanent right of way. And so obviously if we did that, that would change the amount of the obtained, which would change the appraisal, which is why we get the permissions settled and get them done prior to ordering the appraisal. So we haven't addressed the obtain or anything like that. We haven't ordered the appraisal until we get these permissions. Once we get the permissions situated and settled, then we will order the appraisal, and then we will make an offer on the obtain, on the actual right-of-way obtain. Does that make sense?
Did someone say no?
No, it's-
Oh.
I- is it- Yeah, is it up?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Branham.
Yes.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm the staff attorney for the district, but I wanted to ask you, so and this is like an easement in a way? Is that what you're trying to say? It's like an easement, and then as far as you being the grantee is Michael Baker International that's receiving the permission?
No, actually, the county and their contractors will actually be the ones that are receiving the permissions.
So the grantee is the Beaufort County?
Correct.
The grantee is Beaufort County?
Yes.
And then who's responsible for any damage or, repairs that need to be made? Who's responsible?
So the contractor, I'm sorry, Ken's getting this for me because I wasn't sure I was gonna be able to make it, but contractor themselves will carry insurance and they will be responsible for any damages done outside of the construction limits. Anything done as a part of these permissions will be cleaned up, tied up, like the silt fencing and stuff. They'll pull those up after construction's completed. They'll tie everything back down. I'm not sure what the decision is on like seeding it or sodding it or anything like that. Typically it's, you've seen construction on roadways. They typically lay that matting down and then they seed it, and then they're not, they wait till they get a growth before they can actually turn it back over. But as far as your question goes, if there's issues in the after, they would either be handled by the contractor themselves through their insurance or Beaufort County.
So we will need to have these documents reviewed by our outside real estate attorney that we work with before we can.
Yeah, and so you
So
asked
we
the
need-
question earlier if those were easements. In most states, they do in these instances get easements. They're temporary easements. These are in the state of South Carolina, a lot of this stuff is done as a permission. The main difference is one, these documents are not recorded like an easement would be recorded because they are temporary. They're a handshake agreement, meaning you're okay with us doing the work as outlined in the plans. And these documents are given to the county, but they're also given to the construction engineer. And they're only valid through construction. So, they're very similar to an easement. The main difference is an easement, is typically a recorded document. And in this state, we haven't been using them. DOT's preferred preference has been to use permissions.
Well, thank you for explaining that to me. I
Yes,
appreciate
ma'am.
it.
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney, have we used this type of format, a handshake agreement in these people?
We call them construction easements, but they're calling them permissions, but we would call them construction.
My question
Yeah,
is,
we-
have we used it?
I don't recall a permission. being
Well, they're
used
calling it a
by law.
handshake agreement, but you're
Well,
signing a
yeah.
document that they're just saying is not filed in the county courthouse. So it's not a document that lives on in perpetuity because it's just for the time of construction.
I understand that.
And I'm more used to having like a temporary construction easement, so I was not familiar with this document, so that's why we need to talk about it with our real estate attorney
Yeah,
about that, to make sure that.
They're very similar. Like I say, they're very similar. The main difference is, you know, and typically with a temporary easement, we're gonna have to outline or define a date, not just say, you know, 12 months, that the agreement's good for 12 months. We're gonna have to say the agreement begins on this date and is done on this date. And not knowing the timeline for construction, whether it's going to begin as soon as we're done with our acquisition or whether it's going to begin, you know, 12 months after, whatever. It's kind of hard to outline it that specific. So, you know, I completely understand if you guys haven't used these things. A lot of folks are more familiar with temporary easements and things like that. They ultimately do the same thing. The biggest difference is one, you know, it's not recorded and the language in it is less specific to a timeline, but very specific to the work that's being done.
My concern really is not pro or con on the actual transaction. It's whether we have experience doing it before. Because if there are no set timelines, does it affect our project time? If there's not that definition.
Well, in hearing this conversation, you know, one of my question was gonna be, can we talk about a temporary construction easement? And the reason being is with the construction of the school. And we've had this conversation earlier that to us, the schedule is probably the most important part of this because we have to line that up with the schedule of our construction project. And so I know that y'all do not know enough now to set a schedule. But as we discussed for us, that's probably the most important part because of, you know, work can only occur most likely during the summer. We're gonna have construction going on at the same time. So we want to be able to dictate the time period and actually the tie-in, we may be more comfortable doing ourselves than having, I mean, as long as you leave an apron, we can tie into an apron, then you actually tying into the existing road if the schedules all work out. So that's my comment.
Do you have those surveys, those plans?
Yeah, and so that may be something that we might need to get Jennifer Bragg. I'm not, are y'all familiar with Jennifer? We may need to get her kind of involved in the timeline kind of thing. You know, the biggest concern with us from a timeline thing is one, these permissions, we have to know which way we're going with them before we can appraise it, because we can't appraise it until we know exactly what we're appraising. You know, currently the only thing that we're set to appraise is everything on these plans that Ken is showing that is in yellow, which is everything that is needed to construct the new roadway, construct the tie-ins, and maintain it in the after. Everything else that is outside of that is on private property, kind of like the tie-ins at Cougar Drive and things like that. All of that is being set up as permission to do the work, but not maintain it. It would be obviously left once it's completed and cleaned up and everybody's good with it. It would be yours, you know. And as far as the easement goes, you know, there is a in an easement you're giving some type of ownership to the county temporarily, whereas in a permission, you're not giving over ownership. You're just allowing them to do the work on side your property.
I think Mr. Otting made a salient point for us. We're trying to ensure that we maintain congruence with the project timelines that we're establishing for the bond referendum.
Yes, sir.
And missing the deadline is something that's really sort of, you know, kind of hard for us to maintain public support. And so if you can pull the attorneys together, starting your group, and then you folks review it. If we used it before, it raises my comfort level. If we haven't, I'd like to see some precise definitions. And you can do it with maybe tying in from the time they start the project until they complete, so it doesn't interrupt your time. Is that okay? Okay.
I think we can have some conversation. I have some ideas too, so we can have some conversations after.
All right.
Also, I have a question. Just watching listening to the conversation. and listening to the new Cougar Drive, who, where, what, when, why, how? Tell me about that. Where did the changes of Cougar Drive and how did that conversation take place, and how do we get where we're at right now?
We're not familiar with changes to Cougar Drive. The only thing we're doing is tying Cougar Drive into the new access road.
Well, I think, so if you could go back to your screen that shows the overall plan. I mean, basically, this is part of the county sales tax referendum
From 2019.
from 2019. There is a new proposed relocation of Cougar Drive,
Right.
which from its location at the bottom to, if you can run your mouse down down the new location. So that's the pond, and as you know, the old location goes out to Sea Island Parkway. The new location will be with a light up at that next drive. So this is all about realigning the drive to go to a new light, which we are definitely in favor of, because that will give us a signalized exit out of the middle school. And it's gonna come along the pond and go all the way to Robin Drive. And so that will become a new county road. And that was a project proposed and developed by the county as part of the 2019 sales tax referendum. How's that for an explanation? Anything y'all want to add?
Yeah, I mean, that's great.
That was
Just,
great.
You know, looking at this, just to be clear, this part of Cougar Drive right here will be
Eventually.
eventually.
I know, Bob, I think we talked about a little bit about the timeline of them tearing that out.
Right.
And whether or not that would actually be done in the end, there was going to be some conversation, I think, also with Jennifer about that. The proposal was once the new access road was built, was that Cougar Drive would no longer feed out to 21. Is the way the plans are currently designed. Now, all of that, you know, timing and stuff for pulling that out and tearing it out, that can be coordinated. And then if there's a request to leave it in, you know, that would need to be made through Jennifer and the folks at the county. But the current plan would be for that Cougar Drive where Ken's showing on the mouse, from there, that point all the way out to 21 will be basically torn out. And that access would go away, and then the access would be up at the intersection at Gay Drive, to a signalized intersection at Gay Drive, and then also access back over to Robin Drive.
Okay, so my question would be, why would we get rid of Cougar Drive right here? Because we currently have two ways in and out right now. So why would we want to do away with that one right there with the Cougar Drive? Because what Cougar Drive does is it gives access at a different point to parents and students, and now versus having one way packed, we would have another emergency route if needed be. We've always had two entrances, and really actually realistically, the buses used to kind of use one, and so the parents use the other one. And so with this other additional, then the question would be, what would be the pros and cons of it, and how much amount of traffic could that road handle versus getting rid of the separate road?
Can I interject? Mr. Otting, if you'll take that question from Board Member Smith, and any other questions that he or other board members may have, interact with them. You have one too, Colonel. So capture all the questions, confab, get together, come back with some very precise responses for us, and then we'll adjudicate. Is that fair?
That's fair.
All right.
Yeah, same concern. Okay. Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Vacate my seat for somebody to come take it.
Oh, here's a seat, Mr.
No, I can go back. I think you got a couple of people who need to join.
So just to be clear, y'all are good with us? Y'all are done with us?
Yes, and
Thank you.
we'll schedule a time to talk upcoming days.
Okay.
I'm available tomorrow. Y'all have time tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your time.
you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dave Grissom, Director of Security. As you know, security is an all hands on deck type of operation. Tonight I have Dr. Graham with me, Ms. Jerry Henderson, and Ms. Murray. Everybody's going to talk about several different topics for you guys. The very first thing and one of the most important things is we got our emergency plan right here. This is something that we update every year. We send it to the emergency management from the county about January, February, March time period. Once we get it back from them, we send it to the state fire marshal. The local fire marshal most of the time gets it. They send us their recommendations. We go over those recommendations. And Ms. Swinton has done a great job of updating this for us, and Jerry Henderson. So I didn't print this out for you guys. There's plenty of other things to go over, but if anybody wants to see the emergency manual, this is it. This is something that we update every year. We used it last week for the diesel spill over in St. Helens. That's the first thing Dr. Rodriguez went and got. He went and grabbed this to see what we need to do for hazardous spills. So this is something that we use quite often.
Mr. Grisham, just in support of what you're saying, this is the document that's in our,
The emergency management plan itself is not in there.
Yeah, this is not. Everything
That
else
is not.
is.
Everything else is, but the actual plan is not.
the two documents that are in there are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, every possible, to me, as a neophyte, not really knowing what you folks do in detail, it is very comprehensive. The roles are defined, the timeline, the schedule, the recordation of who does what, when. So
You know what, that's Jerry does a lot of this stuff behind the scenes. I mean, this is a lot, Jerry does a lot. Okay, so the very first attachment is attachment 1. This is what they use the training for our coastal security officers. When we met last year, I believe we had 15 or 16 coastal security officers. We're down to about 5 or 6 right now. They are at the ECCs, Hilton Head ECC, Davis, St. Helena. The elementaries are Broad River and Ladies Island Elementary School. The Broad River and Ladies Island Elementary School have been approved for the state grant, and we're in the process now, hopefully by the end of November, having SROs in those schools, which would leave us just 3, the ECCs we're talking about. Those have not been approved through the state yet. We were hoping to get them approved this year, but they were not approved. So we've got to reapply probably in June, maybe May, to get approval for those. Once we get approval, hopefully by the start of school next year, we'll have SROs in every single school in the district, including the ECCs. That's the plan.
Mr. Grisham, just.
Yes, sir.
Keep it right.
No, I want to interrupt me for any
Why were
questions.
those 3 not approved? And what can we learn from them?
The state just didn't approve for budget reasons. Those are all approved by the state. We fill it out and we send it to the state for the local police department. Dr. Rodriguez signs it. Those 3 were not approved. The first year we did this is when we had the vast majority get approved. Last year we tried to do 3. The county said they couldn't do these 3 with the last one for manpower reasons, so we didn't apply. So last year we applied, or this year we applied for the first time for those 3. We anticipated getting it this year. We did not. Been told that we'll probably get it next year, but nothing's guaranteed in the state.
But they are in with the state for approval?
Yes, well, no, I will submit those 3
Okay, no problem.
in May. Hopefully that gets approved and we'll have SROs in every single school after that.
Thank you.
Attachment 1 is just what I did here, just for this is the training that all the coastal security goes through. This is something that's SLED approved. Their training is by the state. We don't do the training, the police departments don't do the training. This is SLED approved for the security officers. That's attachment 1. Like I said, but I'm hopeful by the start of the 2025-26 school year, we'll no longer have coastal security in our schools. It'll be all SRO, except for this building here, I believe. So attachment number 2 is Dr. Graham. She's here to talk about the new program, Stop It.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Alvila Graham, and one of the things I do in my role is bullying prevention. I oversee the district reporting system for Beaufort County School District, and one of the things we did, and I know you want to know the who, what, when, and why. We made a transition from See Something, Say Something, an in-house job platform, to Stop It Solutions, which is an anonymous reporting system that we use. One of the reasons that we did that, we always want to look at as a system how we are evaluating the programs that we're using. So we sent out information to school sites to ask them how we were doing with the See Something, Say Something job form. And then the responses that we got from the school sites, we determined that we needed a different type of reporting. While we were using See Something, Say Something to get information, and it was effective, don't get me wrong, to some aspects, but we still weren't getting the real-time data and information that we needed to look at how we're doing as a system regarding where bullying prevention, what bullying incidences are happening, what are we doing as a follow-up, and what are some interventions that we can put in place. By using this system, it allows us to do that. It tells us when the notification comes in, it lets us know who it was assigned to. It tells us how long it takes for the school to close the incident. And it also talks about what the school does as a follow-up, whether that's counseling, whether that's a referral, or whether that's a conference with the parents. So that gives us the real-time data that we're looking for. So if there's anything that we need or is missing, our student services department can go in and provide interventions to those schools if we're seeing a trend or a pattern in some of those schools. That is what I love about the new system that we're using. It's accessible through student devices. It's on our district website. We also looked at the information on the district website. I updated that information to give parents more information about what Beaufort County School District stance is towards bullying and how we address it. We updated our AR to reflect the new updates as well. So I think right now we're doing a really good job. Like I said, we had to do a bit of a learning curve as we transition from the old system to what we have now. But we have trained our students, our staff, and our kids on how to use it. Right now we're seeing some really good things with it. I love the fact that we have 24/7 certified agents that monitor the See Something, Say Something, Lord Jesus, these Stop It solutions that we're using. And if there is an incident, say a student decides that, they want to make a threat. This is something that they pick up on as well. It's not just bullying. It could be a fight, it could be a weapon, it could be a threat, anything of that nature. There are always agents there to monitor 24/7 and even outside of school hours in case something happens. And if they escalate those situations to the school level first. However, if it's something that they feel is an immediate threat, they will escalate it to Mr. Grissom and Mr. Cottingham, or they've also called law enforcement if needed to address some issues that are happening. I'm trying to think about anything. Also, I've gone out to schools in collaboration with the crisis prevention coordinator to talk about the correlation between bullying and school safety. There is a strong correlation between kids that are bullied or that get bullied and school violence. So we talked about that. We talked to schools about what we can do to create a climate. I shared my own personal story of how I was bullied in school and how having a positive school climate can make a difference. The school that I was at in North Carolina didn't have that. I was leaving school every day because of what was happening. But when I went to a school in Atlanta, I found a school that was nurturing and a school that had a climate that gave me what I needed as a student to have a trusted adult in the building to go to if I had issues in the building. So we talk about that when we go out to schools. We also talk about what you can do as a school to document bullying incidences and make sure that you're providing parents with what they need to know regarding how, for example, if I'm Beaufort High School, what are we doing here at Beaufort High School as it relates to bullying? What is our stance? Are we tolerating bullying? No, we're not. This is what happens. When you do a report, this is what happens. The administrator takes it, we look into it, and they make sure they provide parents with a follow-up of what happened with the bullying incident. So we are still working on that right now. Like I said, it's not where we want it to be, but it is a work in progress. And I think we're doing a really good job of trying to make sure we get bullying under control.
I think one of the important things with this is it is 24/7.
Yes, it is.
A lot of times myself and my partner, Mr. Cottingham, we get the messages that are late at night, weekends, the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls. Those are the ones we typically get.
Yeah.
We either got to call law enforcement, get information for them through Power School or get hold of somebody at the school, but those are the phone calls we typically get in the late evening. So any other questions for Dr. Brent?
Who actually targets the suicide potential? Is that in you?
It's in our
Okay.
department, yes.
No problem. I'll wait till you.
That's next.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Nate? Comments so far?
Negative, thank you.
Carl? Mr. Campbell, I think he's up there.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No,
Mr.
no,
Campbell?
sir. No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
You okay, Mr. Smith?
No, sir, I got questions.
Okay, go ahead.
In terms of bullying,
Yes, sir.
how many cases are you getting from the district a month in terms of bullying? Do we have that breakdown?
So right now, I would say as of November 4th, we've had 210 that were submitted. Only 70 of those were considered or deemed actual bullying reports. The majority of them were classified as inappropriate behavior or other categories, inappropriate conduct. And the action that's taken most often is counseling. So counseling, school counseling is the action that's taken most often with a lot of these reports that we've gotten up until November.
And also, what exactly do you do upon the basically you define bullying upon the state legislators or does the district
So the
kind of
district,
define bullying as something? How does that work?
so the district has ARSS 23, Student Services 23, and it defines what Beaufort County School District defines as bullying, harassment, or intimidation. So it goes into each of those. It even talks about what we define cyberbullying as well.
That's good. That's good enough.
Yes, yes, and but again, we're doing a better job of making sure that our parents are aware of that. AR as well as our schools, and making sure that that is at the forefront of everything that we do when we go out. I don't say this is an Alvilda Graham thing. This goes back to what our AR says. So always go back to what our administrative regulation says.
And that's SS 23, correct?
Yes, sir. Student
Right.
Services 23.
Thank you, and I appreciate that because of the fact that I sometimes do get parents, and I also see on different outlets where parents are talking about bullying, and they are asking, what is the district doing about bullying?
Mhm.
And so, that's why I asked you, we got a report not long ago here, was it math action in academics? I believe from, it was, by, Mrs. Dr. White and Mrs. Skaggs about bullying, and that's I definitely had some questions, and you answered some of it, because I know there's, and also with every one of these 210 situations, there are referrals, there are
Yes.
paperwork to go along with that, right? So we
Yes,
do have
sir.
documentation
Yes,
in
sir.
place for those 210.
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay.
So we make sure we go through that, what it looks like if there is confirmed bullying. We're also following the student code of conduct and what steps are we putting in place. For example, is there a safety plan that needs to be put in place for Alvilda Graham? If so, are we communicating that safety plan to Alvilda's teachers, because that's important? If Alvilda rides the bus, does my bus driver know that there's a safety plan for me? So making sure that we go through those protocols with our school staff of what that looks like, and making sure that we're communicating and documenting what we're doing. We're doing stuff, but making sure we document, so when we get to this level, if there's an incident that comes up, I can say, hey, Mrs. Cartledge, I am at, I'm just gonna make up the school, Bluffton High School, this happened at the school, this is the school's documentation regarding what happened. Of course, we have the information to stop it, but you can also attach documents in there as well to show what you've done, but just making sure we have some type of documentation system.
Right.
So when events happen, we can say we covered it from A to Z and this is what happened, and provide that information.
And then thank you, because that's more of a realistic number. That was my question
Okay.
in terms of last week, because the amount of calls I was getting, it didn't perceive to be some of the, and that's why I asked you about the about the SS 23,
Yes,
because
sir.
that can better help me understand, help parents understand that, okay, your child may have had an incident, but that may not be considered bullying. And if you want to know exactly what bullying is, then you go and look it up on this website, and it's under SS 23. I can let them know that now, because that's a very serious thing we have on this district.
Yes, sir. And we never want a parent to feel like, their concerns, we don't hear their concerns. We want to address their concerns, but you're right. Everything is not define or label as bullying. But that would definitely give them the definition that they need and some information regarding what it looks like and what it doesn't.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Graham. The next two attachments, 3 and 4, are Ms. Murray. She's gonna talk about GAGO and the crisis response plan.
Good afternoon, I'm Andrea Murray. I am the Human Services Coordinator for the Student Services Department and the District Administrator for GAGO. GAGO is our safety monitoring software program that monitors activity on the student devices. It monitors for keywords, if there is any reference to a weapon. It also picks up if there are any threats made, if there's any harassment, violence toward others, inappropriate content, profanity, nudity, drug use, anything of that nature, suicide, self-harm, that is also included in the GAGO reports. This is our 3rd year using GAGO, and I am able to get data insights. In last year, how GAGO breaks the data insights down on the items that were reviewed and the hours that were spent reviewing the content. And it breaks down the categories, and the incident categories are drugs and alcohol, harassment, nudity, other inappropriate content, self-harm, sexual content, suicide, and violence toward others. It also has a category that is multiple categories, which can catch anything that may not fall in the other categories that are listed. When I receive reports, I get a breakdown. In GAGO, you have 2 different categories. You have what's called a PSS. A PSS is a possible student situation. When it comes across to us, it comes across with it's in red, and there's a huge exclamation point in it. So that requires immediate attention. And if you do not respond within 3 minutes by email or text message response, then they will call until they get someone and speak with someone and know that someone either at the district level or in the school level is following up on that particular notification. The other notification category is a QCON, and what that means is a questionable content. It may not be as directed, as detailed. It could be a vague threat. However, if those keywords are involved in the email, or if they're chatting with each other in class, whatever it is, if it's occurring on a student device, those keywords will pop up, and I get it. And each building has staff that are identified to respond to it. If there is something, say a notification comes in at 9 o'clock in the morning, I keep the dashboard open all day long. If I see there has been no follow-up and no response, I immediately send an email out to all the contacts, and I let them know if there's been no update with this notification. Please provide an update and resolve in GAGO as soon as possible. School levels have the ability to go in, put in what they have done, whether they've met with the student, whether it led to a threat assessment, whether it led to a suicide safety assessment and intervention, whether they counseled with the student, met with the student, talked with the parent, was law enforcement involved. They're able to do all of that within the system itself. I'm able to see that. If it is not followed up with, I send out notices until it is. And after the second notice, I tend to call the building principal, and I let them know that I'm waiting for it to be resolved, because right now as a district, we have a 92% resolution rate, and I would like to see it go even higher. When I click on the dashboard, I want to see all green, and I don't want to see any in progress. So I tend to be really on it about follow-up. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what's been done with this student, so that if I'm asked a question, I'm able to let folks know what has been done with this student. So it breaks down by incident by schools. And I know the print is very small, but that's because it did all of our buildings. But the second page actually lets you know, which schools had the most incidents throughout the Gaggle. And I will say that we went down considerably from the 22-23 school year to the 23-24 school year by almost half of the hours and items that were spent on review.
Mr. Lang has a question.
Mr. Nay, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for all that information. I appreciate you. So you mentioned after about 3 minutes, notifications go out, emails go out. If nobody follows up, then notification emails are sent. Okay. Who on site is receiving those notifications, those text messages to take action?
Everyone that is identified at that school building, and it is usually principal, assistant principals, school counselors, school social workers, and behavior management specialists. So everyone at that school level, in addition to myself, Ms. Middleton, who's the director of counselors, Mr. Grissom, who's here, Mr. Cottingham, Ms. Henderson, if this is a PSS, she is also alerted on that list, and Dr. Graham, as well as Dr. Skaggs. And if there's no, if no one responds by email, we all get a text and someone has to confirm that it's been received. If it has not been, then they will call but they will not stop until they actually speak with someone who says, yes, we have it, or yes, we're following up with it right now. And usually what happens, the school gets on it right away. And I usually end up talking to Gaggle and letting them know that, yes, the school is on it, or I have called the school that I know that someone is working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nay. Colonel?
No, that's good.
Mr. Campbell?
No, but I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, you okay?
You referred to a document just now. You said that the numbers are in there.
Mhm.
Is that a presentation that we have at the board has?
Yes.
Packet.
Under what?
It's that folder, it's in a brown folder. All of those documents.
Should be attached to 3.
So in this first, the big part, you're gonna have to go through all the stages.
Okay. While Mr. Smith is looking for that, Mr. Smith, you mind if I ask my question? These two topics have been very informative, and how do we project awareness of this into the community? Do we have interpersonal campaigns where we go out and assemble parents and talk about these things?
I'd like for that. I have been talking to Dr. Campbell about having a community engagement where our team can go out and talk about that, because I think that's very important that we partner with our community, talk about it, because if I'm talking about something here at school, and if at church, they're getting the same message, and we know that we're all on the same team, in order to address this, I think that would be beneficial. So yeah, we are trying to work on having a community outreach so that we can put this message or send this message outside of Beaufort County School District.
And also on the website, Dr. Graham, you have been, and Ms. Henderson, very instrumental in having resources for
Yes.
parents and information about bullying. It's on our website for parents too.
Yeah, humans are social animals, and we
Yeah.
like that interpersonal, that seems to really hit and stick. And where we can actually take it into the community, person to person, small groups,
Yes, sir.
I think you get the multiplier effect.
Yes, sir.
So anything we can do to help. Happy to do so.
And you had the Unity Day. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Thank you.
Oh, I just was wondering. I just wanted to look over the numbers, but I have. But one thing I will say about you in particularly is that I do know you called because I have been who called me and asked me, who is this Murray lady? I said, wow. Because my son did something. They said she called him like she the police. I said, if she called you, she is the police. You answer, because if you don't answer, then she's gonna send the police to you. So go ahead and that's so I didn't call things like not they
I left out one important part, prior to after hours, going into effect, and yeah, we have that component. Gotta go after hours. Now it goes to the dispatch center, they dispatched law enforcement, but I was after hours for the first year and a half. So I would get those calls like Mr. Grissom and Mr. Cottingham, and I would be up with principals and we would be on the phone at 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Because when you get a call that a student is talking about self-harm, I'm not going to sleep until I know that somebody has put eyes on that student and that parent is at home with that student. We had that happen twice, where I literally was on, was Matt Hall and Mr. Shidrich. We were on the phone until about 1 in the morning because we had a student, a gaggle came up about self-harm. They were home alone. We were waiting for law enforcement and the parent to get there. So before, after hours, I was in. And yes, I was calling folks, and yes, if they didn't answer, you're right, law enforcement would be dispatched because I need to know that a student is okay. So, but now that's on dispatch and law enforcement because we have that.
I didn't call you the police. I just said if you don't now. So I don't want to see nothing saying because you call me the police. Not raising me now. I said if you she did not.
Yes,
We also
very thorough with follow-up.
She's very close.
Oh, the parent, she let me know that. She thought, you were blowing up.
I've been stopped in the community and in church too. Yes.
Okay. And just a question for you, Mr. Grissom. So when you and Mr. Cunningham get those calls, who once you get those calls, what is your protocol?
I either call the principal, everyone answers their phone. A lot of times it's like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes none of them answer the phone. I've got to get on Power School and give law enforcement addresses, contact information. It's pretty much all hands, try to get a hold of somebody from the school if I can.
Right, but my point is, so once you tell the principal, then what's their course of action? Because, I mean, you're a security person, and if you're telling the principal, I'm sure the principal is probably helping making contact, but what's the principal's real course of action in terms of how do you and the principal interact to make those things happen? That's some concern, that's concerning for me.
Well, I mean, I called him, I explained the situation to him on whether it be on Gaggle or Stop It or, whatever we have.
Right.
I'll call the principal, whoever I get a hold of, the AP. A lot of times there's a different course of action for all of them. A lot of times if I call a principal, they're already familiar with this kid. A lot of the times they're familiar with who we're talking about.
Right.
Like I said, it's just a matter of me finding out from them what the story is about this kid, me relaying the information to law enforcement, and giving them the information they need to go out to the house. Most of these require a home visit, whether it be a suicide, drugs.
And with Gaggle, they are integrated. The only times we're contacted is if the information that is in Power School is incorrect and they can't find it because they're already integrated with our system. That was a part of this.
But we're not putting it on the principal. Basically, in terms of any things or any contact with mom or dad or anything that is fishy, it is going through law enforcement.
Most of the, probably 99% of the time, this is going to be maybe about 100% of the time, this is going to be a law enforcement issue.
Let me ask, in the packet that I read earlier, there's a flow chart of who contacted you. Is that something, and it was like 1 or 2 pages? And
Yeah.
Okay.
That's in.
Yeah. So, if you could, maybe we could get a copy of that and share it with the board members.
In your packet.
It's in the packet. You see it? Back and forth. Okay. Listen to you. I'm listening now. If they put it out, I'm gonna definitely put it in. Well said. Yes, sir. Ms. Murray, thank you. Are you finished?
Well, I didn't do 4,
Oh,
which is
go ahead.
the crisis counseling manual, which has that flow chart in it. I will say that we are updating the crisis counseling manual at this time because we have changed the suicide protocol processes that are in here. We have updated that. We are now using the Columbia CSSR, the Columbia Suicide Safety Screener Rating Scheme. I have to remember what all the acronyms. However, so that is why you don't have the 24-25, but we're finishing it up because we wanted to make sure that the information that is on the screening and the documentation matches what is in the manual. And it took us some time to do the reformatting so that it would all fit, because there's so much more information now that we're using a different protocol.
One thing I thought was really, noteworthy for me was that the suicide watch list that I saw in there. And, you know, again, having interpersonal delivery mechanism into the community and showcasing that may help push what you have learned and implement into the community, and parents may be able to watch for.
Yeah, and that's a part of our new protocol. There's
Okay.
a whole page that is dedicated to give parents information, how to keep your students safe. We also have it available in Spanish as well. So as soon as we finish loading and updating everything, we will make sure that it gets.
And I just want to mention that the Columbia scale is what's used in hospitals
Yes.
with the emergency room, so we're all working together.
Outstanding. Okay, thank you, man. Thank you. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
For you? Thank you.
Okay, attachment 5 deals with things most of you guys are familiar with, the monthly fire drills that every school is required to do, the annual tornado drill, the earthquake drill we do. We also included that we go above and beyond the state law for our lockdown drills. State law requires every school to do 2 lockdown drills and a craze training every single year in every school. We do 3 lockdowns per school and 2 craze trainings, every single school across the district. Attached with number 5 is last year's schedule, where every school documented it, everybody's done it, and this year's schedule up till now, what we've done through this time period. So again, every school is required to do these lockdowns. Myself and Mr. Cottingham has been there on every single one of them this year, because we also have to inspect our new lockdown system, make sure it's working accurately. It's a continuous process, teaching the school and the staff how to use it. So we are there for every lockdown, sometimes 2 or 3 per day, lockdown drills. But the process is, when we call it, the school will announce lockdown drills 3 times before we activate the system. So that's what we do for our drills. Again, that's something we've been doing for a while now, and that's going to continue. They teach craze in the school, the avoid, deny, defend. So those are the posters you'll see in schools when you go around. Those are in every single school. So any questions about what we do for that?
So run, deny, defend, replace,
Avoid, deny, defend is what we use for craze.
okay.
Used to be run, hide, fight.
Run, hide,
A
fight.
lot of these are the same, but there are some subtle differences in the wording of them. But it's craze, and law enforcement teaches it at every single school. Okay, attachment 6, that's that. Next one is attachment 7, Miss Jerry Henderson. She is she's the blood, sweat, and tears of this whole thing, because she puts in an incredible amount of time and a lot of effort in everything she does. She doesn't do anything halfway. It's either 110% or she don't do it. So you all know who Jerry Henderson is. So Jerry, where's yours?
Thank you, David. Good evening, everyone. As Dave said, I am Jerry Henderson, Crisis Prevention Coordinator for Beaufort County School District, and I've been in that role going into my 3rd year now. And I've submitted evidence of my work that was shared with you all prior to tonight's meeting, but I will highlight some significant points. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask questions. My job as the Crisis Prevention Coordinator is to plan, prepare, and coordinate training for our stakeholders in Beaufort County School District. Those stakeholders include the administrative team at the school that is also defined as the crisis team. Starting in 2022, several of us went to various training to implement the I Love You Guys model within our district. And since that time, I have been conducting training. In your package that you received tonight is evidence of that. Is, for instance, every year since then, to include right now that I'm doing, we have what we call first semester safe school training. That training is not done at the district level. That's where I go meet with the school crisis team at every school. Generally, I do 2 a day. For instance, today was Mossy Oaks Elementary School in the AM, and this afternoon I was at Hilton Head Island Creative Arts, meeting face to face with the crisis team members, which generally consists of the principal, assistant principal, one of them, generally if there are multiple assistant principals, as the crisis team coordinator, school counselors, BMS, school nurse. And this is identified in the I Love You Guys model, and also I have a copy of mine. The emergency management plan states who should be on the team. And to include in our district, as we know, the demographics is changing. A Spanish speaking member, a person that's fed, to identify those students who have limited mobility, because if we ever have to evacuate, we want to reunite those fed students first. So in your package, you'll see the dates and times that I met with them first semester last year. Every school, how many people were in those meetings at each school. In addition, you received a copy of my professional development schedule for last school year. Also, you received, in addition to that professional development schedule, let me show you that. It shows all the trainings that was scheduled last year. This was entered in my learning plan before the school year begun. So when one school started, to include the back to school rally, the back to school, what do we call it? When we had the perfect.
Summer Institute.
Summer Institute, all the training is put in prior to that. So educators and administrators can go identify all the various trainings, whether it's CPR training, whether it's incident command system training, fire safety training. And these are training that's mandated. It's not something that we came up with. It is in our emergency guide. It has outlined, for instance, incident command system training. That's when we work firsthand with law enforcement and first responders. When they come on the scene, they do not have time to talk to us in a layman term. They're going to speak their language as first responders. So it's mandated in our emergency guide, at least one person on their team, to include the district office, should be incident command 100 and 200 trained. But however, we went a step farther. All of our professional development is open to first responders. So when we have that district level training and even school level, they're sitting in the audience with us, especially with the I Love You Guys model. And the I Love You Guys model is being pushed down by SLED for all school districts to adopt that model, so we can speak that same language. But if you look on the professional development spreadsheet, over last year, we trained over 1,700 personnel. And that does not count the school first semester training. In addition, we have a school crisis plan that's in your packet. Every school has a school crisis plan to include, and is mandated. We have a district crisis plan. Every department head lead that plan. They identify who they want on their crisis team, and it outlines in our district crisis plan by bullet format what are the duties, responsibilities, and expectations. And one thing that's very important, and for those of you that was active when Beaufort County incident happened on October 5th, 2022, when we had that swatting incident. And we all remember that, and I shared that with our crisis team when I go out in the field. Dr. Rodriguez wasn't here that day. He was on his way to Columbia to a superintendent meeting. If you look at the back of the district crisis plan, which is also required for our school crisis plan, the emergency management plan mandates that you have a chain of command. In the absence of your administrator, what it says, who can fill your shoes and take on the responsibilities and execute policies and procedures in regards to school safety. Our district crisis plan has a pecking order chain of command of 5 people underneath Dr. Rodriguez that are members of his senior leadership team. Schools crisis team have also a chain of command. The principal, assistant principal, crisis team coordinator, maybe a counselor, but a minimum of 5 people that can take charge if he or she is not on campus during the time of a crisis. Again, they have a crisis plan that they have to submit before the school year starts. Go back to our policy. The emergency management plan states that every staff member should have a copy of their emergency crisis plan, so they know who's in the pecking order, what's the expectation. In addition, we have the emergency management plan that Dave talked about a moment ago. Our policy dictates that our crisis members of the crisis team only have access to this. We don't want everybody to know how we're going to respond to crisis and incidents, but the school is responsible for ensuring that everyone in that building knows about the school crisis plan. Again, this is policies and procedures. You all are going to send a copy of my crisis plan and how many folks participated. I even shared with you the presentation, PowerPoint presentation that was used last year and that's being used this year as I go out currently and share with our folks. One thing that's major this school year that we implemented, started 2 years ago, 2022, is the I Love You Guys model. We actually implemented it backwards because of Beaufort High with that swatting incident. We had to do a real ugly, if you all remember, reunification that happened at the athletic complex. Why was it ugly? Because we had just gone to training. We had not had materials. We didn't have time to buy supplies. Whereas today is a different circumstance. We have utility trailers located strategically throughout Beaufort County. One is located right next to us at the maintenance building to service north of the Broad. There's one located in Bluffton beside MC Riley that service the Bluffton community. And there's also one on Hilton Head. So we have to activate the district crisis team to support a school that we're evacuating. We don't have to gather up things anymore. However, all crisis team members at the district office, we do have a carry bag, a go bag that we grab and go. And we generally keep that, and we tell the district level folks, keep it in your vehicle. Because we're out and about all the time. If something happened today, I'm not gonna be able to come back to my office. My go bag is in my car 24/7. Now, what we did also, I would tell you, going out to the field, you learn a lot working with the school crisis team. And I was at Hilton Head High School last year in the fall. And one of the firefighters asked the question, Jerry, after looking at the video from our mass casualty drill last year, he said, how can we identify the folks at the school if we come on the scene? You all have that material. We don't know who these folks are at the school level. And I said, you know what? That's a good idea. And I came back, Alex, do we have more money? We bought all this stuff, Alex, do we have more money? Please find some money. I said, it makes sense to me that they're saying. And so she found some money. She and Tanya found some money. So now, if the first responders arrive on campus, this is uniform across the district. All the principals have vests that has principal on the back. So in the colors uniform across the district, all assistant principals have blue. All the crisis team members wear their crisis team vests. And they do this even with the drills to condition the stakeholders, i.e. students and staff, to know who these folks are on their crisis team. And I ask the question when I go out and work with the school level crisis team, do you know who your members are on your team? And if somebody says no, principal, we got a problem. Yeah. Are you wearing the vest? We bought this. Every school crisis team were given in May a school first responders kit. Uniformly across the district, all schools and all programs to include adult ed, right choice, and ACE. So everyone is executed and speaking the same language according to policies and procedures. Are we there yet? Not there yet. We'll never get there. But I would tell you we're constantly training and preparing our stakeholders, especially the crisis team members, on policies and procedures. And I tell them, I don't expect them to sit down and read this all day, but I expect them to know how to perform because they're responsible, ultimately the principal, for everybody in that building, as the policy says, to include the visitors in the building, to make sure everybody's prepared with the I love you guys model. Maybe I can give you one of those to pass down. We updated, we changed our terminology this year. Did you all get a copy, board members, of the badge backers that they passed out with the new terms? Did everybody get a copy of the badge backers? Everybody in the district office received a badge backers with the new terms: hold, secure, lockdown, hazard, and shelter. And we started educating the stakeholders, i.e. the crisis team last year. You can't expect them to learn this overnight. So this has been a 2-year initiative. And every office space and classroom in our district now, district school, have a quick reference guide of this. It tells them how to put the school on the lockdown. Every school, everybody in that building is responsible for school safety. Therefore, they need to know how to put the school in a hold, secure, lockdown, shelter, hazard status. And this is beside their phone in the room as far as what is the process of putting the school in one of those 5 terms of arts. In addition, what we did, and you'll see this in all the schools, we put it in the schools in English and in Spanish. In the entrance, in every classroom, therefore, has this quick reference guide. It also has a Jacob kit that we purchased over 3,000 2 years ago. So it making sure that teachers have all the information they need, because research shows when you read the after action report of a serious incident, 95% of the time students are with teachers. Teachers have to know how to respond during a serious incident or a crisis. And teachers in turn, this is what the emergency management plan said. And I remind them when I go into the class, we're working with the school crisis team, don't you say Jerry said nothing. Jerry repeated the policy to you. Jerry said it's not a policy, but this is the policy that governs us to include Administrative Regulation SS 58, which is the school crisis plan, which dictates the superintendent is responsible for school safety of not only the stakeholders, but property in the school district. And as I share with them, we have one superintendent, but we have all of our other stakeholders to include students to ensure safety to ensure a safe working and learning environment. And as I shared with the school resource officer once who said, Jerry, it's all about the kids. I said, that's not true. It's about everybody. because those folks are working the building, their loved ones want them to come home also. So it's not all about the students, it's about everyone that's in that building performing their duties and responsibilities. I think I covered everything on here. Any questions for me about the school crisis, my job as a school crisis prevention coordinator?
Mr. Nate,
Negative, thank you.
Mr. Campbell,
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Colonel?
I've been watching this now for 2 years, and every plan is fragile. Every plan has to be constantly reviewed, war gamed, and you're doing it. That's what gives me great confidence in your plan. But I also tell you, be flexible, because something will happen that you have not come across before. As long as you have your chain of command and you have communication, we've got the people that can adapt to the situation. So I commend you.
I think one thing we didn't discuss is last year we did a drill at Ladies Island Middle, countywide drill with all the law enforcement partners and district and reunification and everything. This year we didn't do one. Next year, I think we're planning on doing an outside event, football game type of thing, mass casualty, much like we did last year. It's probably gonna be on the south side more than likely is what we're planning on. So that's next year, sometime in the summertime.
And to add to that, we did do one this year. We worked with Captain Will Angelo on the sheriff, he works at the sheriff office. And that's one of the beauty of our partnership. It includes those first responders. We have a daily conversation with them. Is that we don't do them every year because it takes time to make corrective actions to those identifiers that they found, those shortcomings. So they, over the last 12 months or so, they've made corrective action, and we'll identify a date of the mass casualty drill for 2025 within the next couple of months.
Okay, well, I want to question well, I will say that I know there's some new ones. There's some new ones. I was kind of shocked.
They're new, exactly.
Did you see something?
Those are new.
That's the first time it's been updated.
Okay.
Probably,
So that was something we spent some of money on. Because we had to change the terms.
Alice got deep pockets.
So we had to change, because we changed the terms of arts, we no longer have medical lockdown.
Right.
And all that, we went to hold secure. I love you guys model have those 5 terms of arts, so we had to educate our stakeholders, i.e. the school crisis team, who educated the teachers. Now, instead of a medical lockdown, you're here over the PA system or Epic, we're in a hold status for medical purposes on C Hall.
Right.
And that's to cease all movement in the building because something that has occurred within the building. And we don't want folks walking around as first responders are in the building. So again, oh yes, all of that is updated.
Yeah, it looks good. I just say, well, anyone who knows you, know that your work speaks for itself, at a large volume, because, from time to time, definitely speaking to different law enforcement and, different people, and, I went to go visit, I was visiting a principal one time, and, your red and blue, is it? Your toe. Your blue, it's blue or it's dark, it's red, I know it's red. But anyway, they said, one of the person I won't call her, they said, Miss Henderson is coming, Miss Jerry, this is, she said Jerry is coming. And so look at, make sure that box is where it needs to be when she get there, cause I don't wanna let her, make her think I don't know where it's at. So basically, the box was walking over, said that you were coming, so that there would be no question about y'all training that y'all were doing something, but I do appreciate you, like I said, I definitely have law enforcement who have told me at different times that the Tennyson is just a great asset, and they spoke very highly of you and your work, and it speaks volumes, and it's different when it's coming from different people in the community who understand you and appreciate what you do. So I just like to thank you and keep up the good work.
Sometimes Jerry and our paths cross a lot. We did a lot down in Battery Creek, and Jerry was in the room
Preparing for training.
preparing for training. She had no idea we were doing a lockdown until we did it. So our paths cross. We're at different schools, sometimes the same school on a daily basis. So
Does that complete?
that's it, sir. If you have any questions or comments?
This has information on the crowd.
Yes.
To the full board.
Okay.
Ms. Walton just wanted me to highlight one of the training that you see on my PD schedule. And I work real close in collaboration with Dr. Carlos Cade. And really everybody, school safety is everybody's responsibility, so I'm working with everybody. But in particular, Dr. Cave and I got together last year with the University of Mississippi, funded by FEMA, on school safety as far as athletic events and sports events. Well, we just completed the third class in a series of 7, which was held October 22nd, 23rd. We had an FBI agent come down and train us on crowd management for sports and events. And people oftentimes think about athletic, but we have events. We have parent night. Wherever there's a crowd, we have open house. So we have assemblies, we have performing arts in our performing arts centers. Those are events. So the representatives that came down and conducted training with us, there was approximately 50 folks that have been in this cohort, and we allow folks from our first responders partnership, they're in the room with us. Law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs. Again, if we want to train together, we can perform better when we execute. So that crowd management gives us the best practices to put in place for athletic events, for those special events that we hold in the building, in regards to having a plan. For instance, for a football game right now, all of our ADs are required to have an action plan in case something happens. Dr. Cave has prepared, just like we have with the I Love You guys, pre-prepared public address announcement. Let's say there's a thunderstorm coming. He has prepared responses that have been given unilaterally across the district to his ADs. This is how you make that announcement. You know, at this time, we're going to cease the football game because there's lightning that has been seen 2 miles out. So those are things that we've learned in the crowd management, sports and event training, to have those pre-prepared trainings, have the ADs in the room, those folks that oftentimes we don't think should be in the room. And we, as I shared with all the administrators and the crisis teams when I go out, make sure your folks get to the professional development. We try to hold them on days that they're PD days. Sometimes we can't do that. Like for instance, Summer Institute this year was one day. We couldn't do it, so we had to do it during the school year. But it's important, and this is what the manual says as far as crisis team members. Make sure, if you look under crisis team members' role and responsibilities, make sure they participate in professional development and document it. Every professional development that I host, they have to sign in. I create my own sign-in sheet, not that I don't trust anybody, but y'all sign, and I'll make sure it's in your portfolio at the district office. Because we need to document, and I want to say something at the district level, that includes district staff. We conduct training here. We have praise training here at the district office. Do we not, district staff?
We do.
We have district, because who's to say no, a disgruntled employee doesn't come up here? And we've had that, have we not, Alan? We've had that here. Our district staff has to know how to respond also.
We had stuff that we didn't see.
CPR, and you've been in CPR training.
I took it.
Exactly, you've been in my CPR training, so the training is open to everybody. Don't put your, don't
We're gonna draft it.
Any student 10 years or older, and those trainings are held at nighttime,
That's right.
and they're held on Saturdays. We had one 2 weekends ago here on the 26th of October.
I didn't know.
And we had a 10-year-old student, a teacher brought her 2 children with her. So the training is open to students also. Let's go back to the policy that states 10% of every faculty and staff should be CPR trained. We have 1 nurse, but it states 10% of your staff should be trained. Because if you're in a crisis situation, that 1 nurse is not going to be able to accommodate. By having 10% or more trained, they can better support. One thing that a school has done, Coosa Elementary, which a great idea the office manager did, she found out the credentials on all of the staff members. She put it above, she created magnets above each door. So if Ms. Jones moved from room 120 to 150, she can take a magnet, CPI certified, CPR certified, national board certified, master teacher. That way we don't have to run down the hall, who's CPR trained, you look at the top of the door, and it has these magnets above the door. So the crisis teams are doing amazing things, and in my PowerPoint presentation, you can look there. Anything that I find is a best practice that need to be shared, I share with other teachers. Paul, I'm gonna shut up. Ms. Brown at Bluffton Elementary School approached me last year. She said, Jerry, CPR is a great idea. How about training all my 5th graders? I asked Alice, do we have some money? Jerry, we don't have no money. We ran out of money. Paula said, I'm gonna find the money. We train every 5th grader at Bluffton Elementary School.
Wow.
Same curriculum for what you took. CPR, stop the bleeding, and Narcan training. Every 5th grader, that's now 6th grade, that was at Bluffton Elementary School. Parents had the right to opt out. because we don't want to force anything. But all those sixth graders, I think probably 98% participating. They're CPR certified right now, Stop the Bleed, Narcan. And I've shared this with elementary school principals now that they're all trying to schedule dates. And we do this at the end of the school year in April after state testing has concluded, when kids are sitting around doing nothing. Not nothing, but why not get them CPR certified? When they're more accessible, let me put it that way. So it's that, so again, the truth has set them free. But why not? And right now, principals are, as I go out, Jerry, I want to book a date. And I tell them, first come, first serve. We served a Fusky. We're headed over on the bus to train those 26 precious students. Everybody received the same training.
And I'll sign up for a refresher.
And and I would tell you, district policy, let me go back to policy there. American Heart Association says your certificate is good for 2 years. However, though, our first responders tell me, Jerry, they really should take it every year, even though their certificate is still good as a refresher.
Okay. I'm due also. Class.
Yeah. It's in the PD, it's in the PD.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, one thing I did learn about the citizens today, that the citizens ain't gonna jump nobody. She said, I don't care, everybody needs to sign.
We need a recommended motion.
Mr. Mayor, Nate,
Sir, yes, sir.
yeah, would you be willing to make a recommend a motion to take this to the board for consideration?
And you can be placed on the agenda if you all approve.
Approve it.
And
You're gonna take it, you're
It's a recommended motion to take to the full board and to be placed on the consent agenda if they want approval.
okay, did you hear that, Mr. Nate?
So moved.
All right, I second. All in favor? Mr.
Aye.
Nate? Aye. Okay, thank you. All right.
Well done. Thank you.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Mr. Miller, you brought us information, so you learned a lot here, so please help us take it out into the community.
Beg pardon?
Please help us inform the community.
I will. Attending these things are, I started with a real purpose, but what I've learned is the amount of red tape and things you folks have to do is amazing.
It is amazing.
And I appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
I will pass it along to anybody I see.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I will give you guys our updates for the construction projects through October. Starting with the 2019 bond referendum. These are slides 3 through 26. We are reporting all projects on budget and schedule. And I would like to announce that Robert Smalls, we have received the closeout documents for the school. We are currently working on the processing the final payment applications that have come through from J.E. Dunn. So this will be the last report on Robert Smalls. As we go forward, we're just looking forward to the closeout of this project. Or not closeout of the project, I'm sorry, closeout of the program. Now, Allied Universal Technology Solutions, Mr. Dallas, I know last time we spoke about trying to herd cats. So I am proud to announce that we have 21 school locations out of 35 that we can say are complete with the scope from Allied. What remains of those locations is just the training on nutritional alarm. So we are working to get the contact form set up and the final programming so that we can just train the school and bring those systems live. So by the end of this month, you will see more progress on those schools. And we are currently talking to contractors about financial closeouts, getting the actual document closeouts for the 2019 referendum. So we should be making some good progress here shortly.
Can I ask for clarification?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in that first bullet, the bond referendum project update, slides 3 through 26, you say that there are 21 schools out of 35 that have been completed. Under the next bullet, it still shows there 30 project closeout. So
Remaining.
that's remaining. That's the number we had last month.
So that is correct. So what we're saying about the project closeout, remaining is gathering all the documentation, doing the financial closeouts. When I'm talking about 21 schools out of 35 completed, is only on the cameras, access controls and intrusion detection systems. So that's your alarm, burglar alarm systems. That's what we were focusing on, because last time we had you saw that there was a bottleneck of projects that just were not moving forward. So we finally got with the contractors on a path forward, and they managed to get 21 schools completed last month in October.
Okay, so if I may, going down to that second bullet with the 30 project closeout,
Yes, sir.
what's necessary there to move that along?
That is just a collection of the, let's say we're gonna get owner manuals, warranties, as-built plans. It's just a collection of the documents from the contractors and then the acceptance of those, as well as the final adjustments on the cost of the work that sometimes the contractor will have savings under their guaranteed maximum price. So it's just doing the final amendment to close that out and bring money back into the referendum if any funds remain. But that's all that it usually takes them. They have to get all through their invoicing with their subs to compile all that data. And then the closeouts, they work along in conjunction with those documents. So for example, some of the projects with Thompson Turner right now that we're trying to get closed out, we're looking at having majority of their locations closed out by the end of the year. At least this is what they're reporting, and we've been trying to work with them to try to compile those documents.
What do you mean work with them? What does that mean? I don't understand. This thing's been going on and on and on.
When I say work with them, it's just trying to get them to like clarify, hey, this is what we need so that we can close out. It's kind of been the hand holding with those guys, but they have a clear set of instructions now with a checklist of closeouts.
Why are we hand holding them? Those are big business.
Well, let me make it, maybe of those 30 that are out there that need to be closed out. 21, all these 21 are in those 30, so they've been sitting there closed out, but our construction hadn't even been done. What we're saying now is we're to the point now where the construction's done. So now we can really move in earnest into closing them out. Like we've been reporting for months, they're way behind schedule. So now we've been successful in moving them forward to getting the construction done. And now they will, in legitimacy, work on closing them out.
I don't like to turn work on.
Understood, sir.
It's time for them to get it done. I don't know how many times we've had this conversation about those. Next meeting, what I'd like to see is an itemization of who has how many. I know Allied Universal has 11 of the 30. Where are the remaining 19? Which of our subcontractors or contractors has responsibility for delaying this institution?
Yes, sir.
Is that fair?
That is fair.
And then we need to look at what in contracts, how they going forward will capture this and their sanctions if they don't deliver. Not working with them, right? We pay them on time. We expect the projects to move on time, right? We'll help them any way we can, but they can't pull up this referendum project time. That's how I look at it. Fair enough?
Fair enough,
And I appreciate what you're doing. I know you're trying, but an organization has to support you, Mr. Otting, and operations.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll bring some progress next time, and we'll bring those items for
And
you.
if you get that list, itemized list, before the next meeting, then share it. Share it with the operations.
Yes. We'll do so.
Thank you, sir.
Before y'all move forward, I do have a question.
Okay.
Also, you made references about cameras. How many of those cameras are actually working? When you say completed, how many of those cameras are actually up and actually working? Because to me, I've been getting complaints that the cameras are up, but the cameras are not working. So how many cameras are actually working in all these places that we're talking about?
So the way that will work, it'll vary by location. So the way that it substantial completion is for the beneficial use of the owner. There may be, say, an elementary school where you have 2-3 cameras that may need to get some refocusing on the lens or adjustment of the camera. So that becomes a punch list item that the contractor works on, and they typically take care of these items within a week. or it'll be an item where they'll send a crew out there and they'll just spend the night trying to get these resolved. They'll make sure that, because IT holds the server, they have to basically come back here and let them know, hey, listen, this is the locations where we still have to make sure that you refocus things. So we're giving them a login. And like I said, depending on the size of the school, you're talking about elementary school, you'll have like probably 3 to 5 items open on cameras. You'll have at high schools, it'll be the same. You'll have about five cameras that may be remaining, but like I said, it's a system that is mostly useful to the owner, and it's just trying to get them to do the final punch list, to try to tweak those tiny items.
August,
Yes.
you said trying to get. Right? That's what you just said.
And I shouldn't have used that word.
That denotes that we're being lenient. I'm trying to get. Don't try to pay them when the bill is due. You do. That's all I'm saying. So if you will, Mr. Odding, if you'll bring back in on the number of cameras that are not functioning in my school, that will be appreciated as well. Okay. And give that as a recurring report. Thank you, sir. The number of cameras and those.
Well, yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, moving on to the bond referendum financial updates, figures as of the end of the month. We are reporting the budget with Green Capital Light referendum. The current referendum budget remains at $375,710,000. Payment committed funds total $374,260,194. That is 99.61% of the program. And the remaining available funds, including the contingency, stand at close to $1.45 million. The contingency activity in October 2024 included the savings of $42,556 and the use of $81,337. We are still, as Mr. Rob will call it, we're still expecting the soft landing. So the contingency remaining at the end of October is standing at $130,851. Any questions on the financial update? No, sir. All right. The bond referendum for the 2023 program, the monthly project update, slides 37 through 52. We are reporting all projects with green traffic lights for budget and schedule. May River Elementary, we are working on the civil permits, trying to get the permits from town of Bluffton, which we are scheduled to receive at the end of this month. May River High School, the CTE JROTC additions, that's Thompson Turner's amendment number 37. It was approved at the board on October 15th, and that was a GMP of $13,757,228. For those wondering what the cost of that project was. The new ECC the new Early Learning Center in Bluffton, Site 40, the schematic designs have begun. And currently the site survey is scheduled to begin in November. So that'll be this month that the board efforts will be out there doing some of their work with their subs. Hilton Head Island High School, we're progressing on schedule right now. We are scheduled to be receiving some of the preliminary pricing in December, so we'll have a review then. At Ladies Island Middle School, the replacement school, Site 47, the SDs are scheduled to be received on November 27, 2024.
So the SD?
The schematic designs.
Okay.
Yes. Any questions on project updates?
I'm waiting for community outreach.
All right, once we get there.
Yes, how about Ladies Island Elementary School?
Ladies Island Elementary School is, the only portion of the work at that school is the safety security improvements, but that has not been done at that school.
So are we completing so to my understanding that the library is a complete project? Ladies Island Elementary School, while we work on this, back to last year, we worked on that library, and the AC is still broken there. And it's still not working out, but once y'all took some portable AC or something out there, and the library is still kind of hot. So where are we at with that exactly?
Is that amazing? To be honest,
That is a maintenance site.
To be honest, I do not know the status of the library at Les Alamos, but I can look into it.
Yeah, we'll get you something. Okay. I thought you were gonna ask about the media center renovations, which were part of the 8% project,
Right,
but
that's, I was
the
thinking that.
HVAC, yeah, it was a maintenance item.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The 2023 bond referendum financial updates. Yes, sir. Oh, you wanna move on to the community outreach? Well,
Where are you?
I'm at the top of the page, page 2. 2023 bond referendum financial updates.
I'm with you, yes, sir.
All right. The figures through October, the financial update has been reported with the green traffic light. The current referendum budget, $439,035,000. Paid and committed funds, it's near 173.5 million. That's nearly 39.5% of the program. Remaining available funds, including the contingency, stand at $265.5 million. And contingency activity in October required a use of $146,000. I'm sorry, $146,634, which was used for that May River Elementary project. No savings have been returned to date. Obviously, we're too early into the program. Program contingency remaining at the end of October 2024 was $11,413,366. If you are wondering about the project level contingencies, those the original contingencies were $17,060,756. The remaining project level contingencies are $13.9 million that remain at the project level. Now, any questions on financials in 2023? Moving on to the 8%, which is the other project updates, as well as food service. Any of those, we are reporting those with a green traffic light and budget and schedule. There's no issues over there. Moving to community outreach. Site 75, the ribbon cutting ceremony for the River Ridge Academy Fieldhouse is being coordinated to occur this month. We're working with Mr. Summers, and Tim's gonna give us some updates once he coordinates everything with Mr. Ryman to get all the details worked out as to when this is gonna take place, and we'll share it with you guys. The groundbreaking ceremony for Mid River High School CTE edition is being coordinated to occur in January 2024. Another one that we will coordinate the details as to which date is chosen for this, and we'll coordinate with you guys as well to make sure that you guys can all attend the event. Question, Mr. Dallas?
On River Ridge Academy, date selection, it says, as you said, we're waiting. Is there a holdup there?
Seems like unfortunately, Robin just left. She's been working. I mean, every day we've gone through like 3 days and they just seem to fall apart. Coordinating between board members, superintendent, school. I think the latest date.
No, I haven't housed.
Unfortunately.
Wondering if
we
we
could
get
have-
penciled one in.
Yeah, there was one, but I think at the last superintendent wasn't able to make that date, so I think we have to look for another one. It may not make November the way it's going, it may get pushed to December. We just can't find dates that work for.
Okay.
When she comes back, we'll try to ask her if there's interest.
Okay. One last, on the BCSD amendments, which is gonna come up. Amendment page.
What now? Go ahead.
BCSD amendments for what's gonna come up for the board?
Yeah, well, you haven't gotten there yet.
The
amendments?
No, I've not done these in the
We really don't.
construction updates.
Construction.
So on some of the financial pages, I saw adult ed reimbursable. So if you can make a note on the financial page. Okay, with that project where you go through, and I think last time I asked you a question and you helped define it for me. This one talks about reimbursable. I have not seen that particular definition. I'll look through them again, sure.
Are you talking 2019 bond referendum?
I think so.
Reimbursables is typically a cost from the architect or contractor, like meals and hotels and stuff like that, that at the end of the job, if they haven't used that money, it comes back to us.
That's what.
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be reproduction fees for their drawings as well, and all those, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
All right, moving on to the RFPs and RFQs, slide 77. The current RFQ for professional design services for civil site projects is scheduled to be presented at the November 12th meeting next week for approval and the selection of a civil engineer. The RFQ 25008 for professional design services, which is for Bluffton High School CTE building. We have a deadline for submittals for November 8th at 4 p.m. So tomorrow we look forward to those. And the professional design services for Riverview Charter School Gymnasium. Those are scheduled the same day of the board meeting at 4 p.m. So we'll be on the lookout for all the submittals from architects. I guess, yeah.
The question came up about the River Ridge, ribbon cutting. Did we ever get a date, or what's the date that we're tentatively working on right now?
Thing I saw was November 20th. I don't know if that was confirmed. That was the last thing I saw that went around.
Okay. We haven't finalized it, obviously.
Do we prioritize like who has to be there and then start going down that list?
Kind of.
Okay. So we can identify, I'm sure the superintendent has to be there.
Yep.
You and others.
Principal, board members in that, who's in that region is usually a high priority.
We asked, we start to see if the chair is available. If not, if that's something that she to be there, we start with her schedule and board members whose school that area that it covers. So that's
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Any more questions?
Okay. Appreciate it.
So just to-
Our question is designed to help.
Oh, yes, and I do want you to help me clarify, so I do get you the information that you need again. You need an itemization of projects. For each, you want to know where each of the contractors are, which schools they say or we're saying that they're complete, which schools remain.
You talking about the camera?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Wherever there are cameras, get an update on what's working, the number per school and how many are working on non-phone. All work, so when we come in here, we can look at it and track it and say, last month there were 10 not working. This month there are only 5. So you can get accolades what you want.
We can do that, certainly.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Sounds like I do have a answer for Mr. Smith, but he's not here on Ladies on Hill, so.
Make sure you get it. Yeah. All right, Mr. Nay, any comments?
Negative, thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
No.
Okay, Colonel has departed. Who's on first?
Mrs. Majors is coming up.
Hello.
Hello. All right, for time's sake, we are going to fast track this report. So I'm gonna run through really quick. The information in the monthly custodial maintenance report covers our reporting period of October, the month of October. The first page, you're gonna see the custodial update. We are transitioning well with our 3 contracted service vendors. We've developed weekly reoccurring schedules with all district level personnel for our custodial team. Management, we've completed vendor training with our vendors as we've set up our Google Drive system to capture our document repository. That repository is going to allow us to capture our static documents, custodial documents, as well as our flex documents like our staffing plans and documents that are going to be ever changing throughout the contract. The Google training's gone well with our vendors. They've been given a deadline to upload these documents by November the 15th to get us prepared for our principal rollout. Our principal rollout training will start to occur the week of November the 18th. This will be a 30-minute session online training for school principals and their designees. They've been asked to elect a secondary contact as well to have access to these Google Drives, and they're going to be given training that will allow them to see what they're going to view as a principal, what documents they're going to have access to, their ability to complete custodial inspections, as well as their ability to complete our custodial deficiency forms. The deficiency forms are going to go into effect, which is going to correlate with our penalty structure in the contract. Those are going to go into effect January 1st. So obviously our push right now over the next 2 months is really to get both our partnerships with our vendors and our administration team at the school level connected. So we're all seeing the same thing. We're getting access to those documents that are going to help us be successful as we start to apply and really get into the details of the contract from a service level. What we have here is our first 30 days staffing table. And you can see our push, our goal with our vendors was to get them to 80% staffing overall. So you'll see each vendor column is denoted with their logo, and you'll see their overall staffing plan. We were able to achieve an over 80% overall staffing plan for all 3 vendors. You'll see here highlighted those specific locations that are under that are 90% or under. And those staffing individual sites that are under that 90%, the vendors, like I'll, go ahead and talk about adult education. It says 0%. So what that means is they don't have their assigned person there. They haven't hired that individual. That individual is in background right now. But they are still providing service to that location. They've had to be creative in the staffing, and they obviously, to make sure we're getting the service levels we need, what they do is they'll pull an afternoon shift from, they'll have an afternoon shift come in earlier or later to cover service levels. They'll have their managers come in and they'll cover service as well when we're struggling with our staffing. So we are getting momentum on getting the service done. I will say our biggest challenge with staffing in this contract has been our background checks. We did go to a model where the school district in our contract did require that all of our vendors go through our bid background check through the school district system instead of relying on the vendors to do their own background checks. And that has delayed that process. And we have seen with a vendor that you'll see has the most highlighted sections, they have struggled the most from a staffing standpoint. I have met with them as of today. We do project that within the next week, these highlighted areas are already in the queue. We're already seeing progress come through for the staffing. We're going to keep the staffing model, and it's going to be reported. We're going to keep a historical trend for the next 3 months. So you're going to see in the next few months, we're just going to build upon this report so we can show you that we are monitoring our staffing levels. We are pushing our vendors to be 100% staffed by December. We're hitting that. We're trying to get them to get to that 90% to 100% mark. We are supporting them. We are communicating with them weekly. And we are also reaching out to them to make sure as a district that, we're getting them the badges they need. We're getting them access control to the facilities. So any questions as far as custodial?
On custodial, when I went through and made my notes, one of these vendors out of 9 variants, one has 6.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the one that, because that one I would think has some experience.
So that vendor does have experience. I will say, Robert and I have talked about this a little bit. It is refreshing to have 3 vendors because it's a little more complex and obviously taxing personally for me to oversee 3 vendors. But the implementation process has been an eye-opening experience because you really get to see different business models. You really get to see what's working for others and not working for some. You do unfortunately have to have the tough conversations with the vendor that's not as successful to say, hey, we hear what you're saying. We acknowledge that you're struggling, but we have 2 other vendors that aren't. So what are they doing that you're not doing? And how can we help you be as successful as they are being? So just know that those conversations have happened. They're continuing to happen. And they hear us and they're,
Well, and I would add that one vendor, so when we talk about struggling with background checks, all their employees get 3 background checks. They get our bib system, the sled check, and their corporate system.
right.
And so it could be held up by ours, it could be held up by theirs, it could be, so that's a massive
That's a lot.
complexity that is, they've added to this, that they're trying to work through that.
Do those two vendors have 3?
No.
No,
So is this particular vendor in question, they're aware that they may be?
I mean, but their background check is their corporate policy.
Mhm.
They feel like the SLED background check is the law of South Carolina and is required. And the bib is what we require. So but they're working through that.
Well, when you do a comparative performance analysis, it doesn't fly.
Right, no, yeah, and in January, the penalties go in, so where they have leniency as far as startup and the transition time. But once the transition time and startup is over, the leniency goes up.
And they're aware of it, clearly.
Yeah.
Okay.
oh yes, they're aware of that clearly, and they understand that over the next 45 days. Part of their training for our Google repository is we shared the view of the principal. We showed them very transparently, this is what the principals are gonna do. This is how they're gonna rate you. This is the model they're gonna follow. This is the type of format for deficiencies that they're gonna report on. We've even provided them our workflow documents that will go to the principal that show from, question 1 through 10, this is what the principals are gonna see. This is how they're gonna fill these forms out. These are the tools we're gonna give to them to help them navigate all this information. So there should not be, I can confidently say, there should not be in any way, shape, or form any question on the vendor's mind of, well, I didn't know. And if that excuse is used, well, I mean, my response would be shame on them.
And if I can say, the amount of effort that has gone into building this system from scratch is monumental. And then Brandy and her staff, Julie, they have spent a lot of time and it's in very good shape, but it is a massive undertaking.
The strategic benefit is that you have options.
Yeah.
That you can very quickly scale up.
Right.
But, effort is good, output is.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions
Yes.
related to custodial?
Mr. Nate,
Negative, thank you.
Mr. Campbell,
No, sir.
Mr. Smith?
I was gonna ask you, I see that 0 does not mean that it doesn't have any custodials at the school.
That is correct. So they currently have that spot for that location. They currently actually have someone in background check. They're expecting that individual to clear within the next week. So what Custodia will do as a vendor when they have a vacancy like that, they become very creative with how they cover that because we're still requiring they service that location. We don't take the excuse of, well, you couldn't staff it, so you don't do the service. That's not how we work.
Okay.
So what they do is they have obviously people coming in on different shift schedules. So like in that instance with adult ed, if they have a PM shift person at another location that, let's say they come in at 7 o'clock because it's their second job, well, then they're gonna have that person come in if they can earlier and service that location. It's a smaller location with just one custodian needed. They'll have that individual come in earlier and service that location. Or they may have their mid shifter who gets off at 3:30, go ahead and extend their hours and provide them an additional opportunity to get more hours, to get more pay, and go over and service an adult education facility. It's only going to take them a few hours to clean. The other model that they're required to do because they have management level staff in place is a manager can go over and clean that facility as well as they can deploy their floater. Every group should have a roving floater as a substitute. So they've got some room there. So just that, does that answer your question?
It definitely does. It definitely does.
Okay.
And Mrs. Put it on my mind, not my heart. What's your name? What's your last name?
Major.
Ms. Major. I know, I never heard this brand, but yes, Ms. Major, let me tell you something. I just want you to know that I appreciate your hard work and your dedication, and it shows in your work and how there you are. And I've also had a couple principals, so yeah, I called Major and told her about it. I said something and said, look, she calls back. So I can appreciate it, and I tell them when they tell me something about the building, I say, hey, check with Major, or you know, I call her, she called back. So listen, I honestly, no hype, no blow, smoke, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. Moving on to maintenance. We've got our work order, data information through October 31st. So we're just gonna kind of move through that. The only thing I'm gonna mention on the work order data page is we are seeing, you know, we started to trend down with our totals, with our, especially our completion totals. We did start to trend down last month. We did see that data start to hit a low point, but we are starting to see it move up again. So I'm feeling good about it as long as we're moving in an upward position on the completion totals. Moving to the crafts page, we had our 2 crafts, we had our plumbing and our HVAC. I want to note under the HVAC specifically that May River High School did come up, but the update that I wanted to give y'all is we are in the process of, we've got Harris Integrated Controls Company there. They have already started to complete the hardwiring the units to the control systems for our automated logic system. So that work is already in process. I spoke to the construction project manager to get an update. They are making really good, they're at a really good pace with that. And they're finishing up connections. They are finishing up on the 2nd floor, and then they're moving into the CTE and academic areas on the 1st floor. So that communication controls issue that we've talked about for so many months, we feel good about that. We feel like we're starting to actually make some headway on getting that project to completion. Moving on to the next 2 pages of data, it's what we're doing as far as our monthly work orders assigned. I will report our requested and completed within the same month. That did increase to over 40%, which is what I'd like to start to see. And then our work in progress did go back under 50%, which is good. We are starting to see our average days increase over that trend for both north and south. So we're just going to monitor. We're going to keep an eye on it. I have confidence in maintenance that that's going to balance out. And we're going to start to kind of come back to that 5-day average that we like to sit at. But we're just going to continue to monitor that for both north and south for our average completion days. We were able to complete a school blitz, maintenance school blitz at MC Riley Elementary School and Early Childhood Center. So you'll see that on our page 6 there. We had our maintenance staff go there and complete some of those tasks. Moving on to staffing for maintenance. I'm happy to report we are seeing some movement finally. We've been down positions in maintenance for 8 or more positions over the last few months. So that department has struggled staffing. So we were able to bring in 2 HVAC technicians and a plumber. I will report though that we did, the HVAC manager did end up resigning. So the ABM is actively looking to fill that position. We've, Robert and myself, we've spoken with ABM's corporate level team to talk about some of the challenges that they're facing trying to fill that position in this market. They are extending their web to try to recruit outside of the Charleston, Columbia area, Savannah area, to see if they can make an impact on finding a better fit for that position. As you know, I'll be transparent. We've seen that position turnover quite frequently and over the last few years. And that really does impact our ability to stay on top of our HVAC requests that come through. Overall maintenance, I will say successfully, we did our blitz this month. They have been, one thing I want to mention about maintenance is they have stepped up through this custodial transition. there are several parts of our custodial maintenance contract that their scopes are overlaying one another. And so some of those tasks that custodians would normally do, that are part of their scope of work, maintenance has stepped up, like our light bulb changes and our ceiling change outs for our tiles. You know, maintenance has stepped in to do that, recognizing that we're in this transition phase with custodial. I am scheduling a meet and greet with all of the contracted service providers. You talk about community relations, connection. I do have an upcoming meet and greet scheduled, and that meet and greet is primarily to get all of our vendors, our maintenance, custodial, and grounds management team in one place, so we can face to face, we can meet, we can put faces with names, and more importantly, we can have conversations about what operating practices do we need to develop to ensure that all our parties that have those overlaying scopes are coming up with a plan to be successful. So we're going to do that in the coming weeks. So I think we're going to get a really good turnout for that, and be able to build some good processes, you know, so we don't have a lot of he said, she said, and no, it's her job, no, it's his job. I want to try to squash that.
Yeah.
We gotta get ahead of that. Yeah, we gotta get ahead of that. Especially with 3 custodial vendors. So overall, that concludes the maintenance and custodial report. If y'all have any questions or feedback?
Mr. Nate,
Negative. Thank you very much.
Mr. Campbell?
He said no, Mr. K. He said no.
Oh, okay.
He said,
Smith?
no, sir.
Well done.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the effort that you put into constantly elevate performance and does not go unnoticed. There's some of the testimonies from Mr. Smith and others, and there's a village here that's very review, so thank you, man.
Yes.
We know it's not easy. Mr. Otter?
All right, I'm up. We're gonna talk about water usage. This was requested, I believe, coming out of the finance committee. For us to do a report on water usage. So, if you go, a lot of these graphs look similar to what we've done with energy. So you see this first graph here is 4 years of water usage showing water, sewer, irrigation, and then you have a tracking of the cost. You see a big uptick in this year in August, which I think that'll explain itself a little more as we go into more of the details. Next. One of the biggest eye-opening thing, I believe, is when you talk about the rate changes from Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer. That kind of jumps out to you on that percent rate increase, when you're jumping up 35% from 2023 into 2024, and that is just on one of the things that we're charged on, which we'll show in greater detail as we go along. So, next. So the next one, so we have 2 water providers. There's Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer that does the bulk of our water and sewer. And then you have Hilton Head PSD, who obviously furnishes water and sewer for the Hilton Head market. The increases with Hilton Head PSD have not been quite as large, but you can see it can be as high as 10%. You see the different fee structure and how it's broken out over, the first 10,000 gallons, and then as you go up, the amount of the fee increases with each level that you go up. And the biggest increase is when you get to the over 30,000 gallons usage rate. So the next slide, again, talking about increased costs, and here you can see a Hilton Head PSD on the top chart and Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer on the bottom. Of course, Hilton Head PSD, as we talked about, a 10% increase over 30,000 gallons in the water usage, where Beaufort Jasper and Sewer, the biggest increases are with sewer usage, and that big 35% jump and 30% jump for sewage use. So that's a big jump. See our graph that shows that the costs have been remaining pretty stable, that there's fluctuations throughout the year, but then you have a big jump that occurs from August of last year to August of this year. That isn't due to that 35% fee increase, along with a little bit of increase in water usage. One things I forgot to add, when you're talking about our August increase in water usage, you'll also see it in our energy use. Is basically one of the things you got to take into account. We started school a lot earlier this year. And that's when we started end of July, where in the past, we started the third week in August. So it's not surprising to see a big jump in energy in all our utility usage in August. Because in the past, we weren't in our school buildings. It's going to be interesting to monitor that going forward to see if that's an anomaly this year, or if we continue to see that big increase in throughout in August. Again, some tracking of our water usage in a couple different ways. See water usage in the top left, irrigation usage in the top right. With the irrigation use, you're not seeing really any kind of seeing some fluctuations, especially the dips in January, but no major trend upward. Your sewage use, you're seeing that big jump that we're having at the end of this year in August. And same thing when you're looking at the monthly cost. You're an average cost, you're seeing a trend going up with a massive jump there in July. So the big thing, I guess, to talk about is when you're talking about monitoring our usage and when we have these jumps or leaks or things of that nature. In the past, we would get a letter from Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer just notifying us they're noticing a possible increase, and that could have come 2 weeks or some time after. So there's a delay from when you have the leak to when we get the notification. And typically, if we fix the issue, if it's a leak, and notify Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer, they'll then delete those additional costs once they know that leak has been fixed. But going forward, what we've done is, and this is all come from Julie Siebold in developing this.
Who is she, Mr. Pine?
She is our data analyst. She is the one that's been working with Brandy to develop the whole custodial Word doc
Yeah, the
format.
Google
But
Drive
she's the
folder.
one that develops all of these charts for these performance reports. And she was tasked with looking into the water usage and the energy usage. She does all those graphs. And in finding that, she found through Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer this Beacon program, which is more of the real-time monitoring report, which we're now accessing. And so we can access our information real time and also receive reports as far as spikes in usage and things of that nature real time. So you no longer have to wait for a letter to come in the mail. You get it. And so hopefully we can get those addressed quicker than in the past.
So just, can I add more to that?
Sure.
So that beacon system, just so you know, myself and Julie and the maintenance director and assistant manager, we met about this beacon system. So it's the commercial side of Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. You can see your meters in real time and you can set notifications. Now, when Robert says notifications, we can get pretty detailed with literally pulling it down to setting how many gallons we want to see consumption per hour. And then based on that condition, if that condition is exceeded, let's say we say 10 gallons an hour. If that condition is exceeded, then it prompts a notification and does a push email to those individuals we've set up and identified that need to get. So that's phenomenal.
Wow, yes.
We've not had that before. There's also an ability in that system to set meters based on their flow rates. So whether they're a continuous flow, if they're a reverse flow, then it indicates that that's related to a backflow. So we were already just in the training and the meeting we had to talk about the system. I'm really excited about it. We were able to see three backflow devices that had a reverse flow notification on them, which should not be showing a reverse flow notification on them. and maintenance was able to look at those, see them on the map, identify their latitude, longitude, and physical address, and able to put them on a watch list and go out and investigate them. So we are just in the infancies of figuring this out, but from where we were to where we could go and are going, this is gonna be a phenomenal thing for us to get ahead of these higher, consumption notifications that we're getting, so.
Is there a calibration point with finance, or this, water usage actually came up in a finance discussion when they looked at the increased costs? Is there like a sit down and maybe just sharing this with them so they can?
We can. I mean, I know the question, or all I remember looking at the finance committee was about, they thought they brought up the leak here at the district office. And of course, that was just a repair that occurred in the leak. People were there immediately, were able to shut it down immediately. So that's, I mean, although that would be a notification, that's not the kind of leaks we're talking about, basically. There are more leaks we don't know about that happen due to a pipe break underground or, something we're unaware of. In that instance, people were there, knew about it immediately. They had maintenance actually caused it, but as part of a repair that occurred. So that's not what we're talking about. I know they brought that up as an example, but yeah, I mean, I'll be glad to share this with them.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's a way, like in that particular leak, to give them a notice so when the financials come through.
Oh, everybody knew it was there.
Oh, they knew it?
Oh, there was water all over the hall. It was all over the place. Everybody in the building knew about it.
They come up in a meeting, people seem surprised. You don't know.
No,
I don't know.
board members were surprised,
Yeah.
not people.
Yeah, everybody in the building probably knew about it.
Board members were surprised, not the staff.
better.
The staff knew, board members didn't.
Yeah, well, what I was gonna say, Mr. Chairman, if you didn't mind, I was gonna say, actually, this report could come up, could be brought up. I mean, because this is a very slim report, this could come up during the board meeting, I mean, then that would suffice, everyone's, appetite for it.
You got a story to tell here, and really just thinking of how do we get you an audience. So you and I, Ms. Auding, have spoken about, if there was a request for the HVAC in the water. So maybe if in a future board meeting, we can get that, and then you come in, and all your team can talk about things that you do. Is that fair?
Assume that would be Tuesday's board meeting.
If it's not too late to get it on the agenda, but we have.
You can do, because this is coming out of committee and report, so when you're giving your update, this, you can just say, they can make a report on Tuesday, since this is coming out of committee.
So I can ask that he come up and.
Yeah, because this is coming out of committee.
Yes. And now HVAC, you might be able to get 2 for 1 at a board meeting.
All right, so this is the long awaited HVAC. This is me as well. So you want to. Right. So, I mean, we have the agenda of the items that we're going to talk about. So the first is kind of the introduction of the importance of HVAC systems. And one of the things, and through time, they're actually becoming more and more important. They play a critical role in controlling the temperature and ensuring indoor air quality, which impacts students, staff, and faculty. And also they're a major contributor to energy and the energy efficiency, sustainability goals, and operational costs, which are all critical for minimizing disruptions and trying to avoid costly repairs. I have a study there just quoted about the temperature. That was a study of New York City, just because a lot of their systems do not have air conditioning and they're moving to air conditioning, and they studied end of semester tests and how that was impacted by the temperature, and they recorded up to a 14% impact on high school graduation status just based on the temperature in the classroom when tests are being taken.
So explain that. So there was an impact on test results?
Oh, yeah, based on the temperature of classrooms, and they were able to study it over several years, multiple years. I think the study actually ended 20. It was in the late, like 17, prior to the pandemic, because New York City was looking at upgrading their classrooms HVAC system, so they compared temperatures of classrooms to test results over the different years in the individual schools. So they felt like they were able to isolate the temperature factor on its own. And they showed a 14% difference on the test results for graduation status. Of course, also indoor air quality is a big issue, and the systems filter and circulate indoor air, remove dust, allergens, and other pollutants. It can exacerbate respiratory conditions such as asthma, which leads to absenteeism and also lower cognitive performance. Studies show that the better indoor air quality positively affects overall student attendance and academic achievement. We've talked about energy efficiency. We've done that as a standalone item, so we won't get into that again. But of course, obviously, HVAC systems are the largest user of energy in any school building. We'll talk about a little bit more about sustainability initiatives and the impact of R22 Freon, which is going to be phased out or has to be phased out by 2030. And of course, the maintenance and reliability HVAC systems are critical to avoid disruption in the learning environments, where preventive maintenance programs are crucial in extending the life of the equipment and reducing the likelihood of unexpected breakdowns. This requires regular inspections, routine service, and ensuring long-term reliability and occupant comfort. Next slide. So in 2022, Beaufort County School District undertook a facilities condition assessment. And this looked at all the infrastructure systems throughout the majority of the buildings within the district. As part of that, they came out with a pressing need for over $273 million in infrastructure improvements that were needed over the next 10 years, with HVAC systems being probably the central focus. A total of $42 million was identified as needed to replace aging HVAC equipment, with an immediate need in 2022 of $28 million needed basically immediately. And the key issue was around the district's dependence on outdated HVAC systems that rely on R22 refrigerants, which, as we said, are being phased out due to environmental regulations.
Can I go back to the impact that temperatures in the classroom have on academic? Sure. So is that a way to link and even more thoroughly justify moving forward on updating comprehensively HVAC?
Oh, yes. And on top of that, even more so, and I should have mentioned this, that I think the focus on HVAC system has become more acute because of the state report card. So now schools are judged on their the condition of their facilities, which, you know, HVAC performance. If you have failing HVAC systems, you're probably going to get lower scores, which in the end will give the school a lower score on their state report card. So that has happened in the last couple of years, and we've seen that principals now are acutely aware of issues dealing with custodial grounds and HVAC problems.
If you could verbalize that improving the temperature in the rooms is something that there's a statistical correlation with the New York study.
Yeah, it's one study. So I mean, but
you can say this. It's one study.
Yeah, it is one study.
It's up to them to review.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would definitely agree that if you're less hot than cold, or you're more comfortable in working, that I do agree that does help you out, because I know I can remember in one of my, coming to school real quick, and one of my sped classes, one of my teachers, she would Miss Babin would always have a fan. And for certain people, some of us would take off our shoes and we would more get, she said, get more get comfortable so you can do your work. And the more comfortable we are, the more she would realize the more work we would do. So when the class would get hot, then she would stop that when everybody would say they were hot, and she would let the fan turn and it would move it around, and she would begin to notice that we were all doing work, and she would say that, well, if they're fed and they're comfortable, they're gonna work. So with that analysis, I'm always from self-experience, I do agree with it. Not that I'm, but I do agree with that.
I think we all recognize that as kind of common sense, but the difference of the story, this study is it actually puts numbers to it.
Right.
So.
Very interesting.
So if you will remember, if you will consider that, we can talk about the energy, link it to the New York study and the empirical uplift that was proven by that study. And there may not be any corroborating stories, but a lot of times it starts with London now.
Yeah. All right, so the R22 phase out. So as I mentioned, R22 is to be eliminated by 2030. This was specified under the Montreal Protocol. The production of new R22 units was banned in 2010, and the refrigerant itself was banned in 2020. BCSD, as of 2022, still operated 1,510 HVAC units using R22 refrigerant. The district faces rising costs for R22 as it becomes scarcer. And while the district has managed to reuse capture refrigerant from decommissioned units, which is required by law, by the way, the long-term sustainability of this practice is limited. Without immediate investment in new systems that use some of the more environmentally friendly refrigerant, BCSD risks higher operational costs and non-compliance with future regulations. The FCA completed in 2022 said 49% of the R22 units were in good condition, 45% were in fair condition, and 5.7% in poor condition. And that's a large proponent of the systems that we have, and that presents a major operational and financial challenge for the district.
So how do we start informing the broader board that this will be a requirement and funding is going to be excessive?
We've been talking about it for a while. It was part of the conversation of the 2023 referendum, because we did a major deep dive into the HVAC units, and that's what allowed us to get some funding in the 2023 referendum. Let me talk a little bit more about our problems. Because one of the things, just looking at the investments we've made in HVAC systems. So since 2022, we've committed 32.5 million to HVAC replacements. That's come from a variety of sources. 16 million from the 2023 referendum, 6 million from 8% projects in FY24, 3.5 million from FY25, 8% projects, 4 million FY26, and 3 million in ESSER funds. But unfortunately, only 12.5 million has been spent in that amount of time since was identified in 2022. And of course, since 2022, inflation has made those costs actually increase. And in this coming summer, we have nearly 7 million planned for 2025, which is a large amount for us. Part of our problems is our summer is shrinking, which makes it harder to do these large scale projects. And also, it is no longer, I'd say, for us a factor of funding, because we have approved funding to get these systems. It's more about our local labor pool and what we feel like with the subcontractors we have available, along with all the other work we have going on, what we're capable of doing in that short window that we now have for summer.
Do we scale up?
We had resources to do it because it's a commitment that we have to execute by 2030.
That, this 7 million is probably the largest we've ever done in one summer.
Right.
We need to be successful with 7, and maybe each summer we're able to take on more. We're gonna get into some of the other challenges with HVAC as we move forward.
But just keep that in mind because that's our date. on the-
Scaling up.
And you may not have to do it, but
Yeah,
at least
I mean-
be planning to say, where am I gonna get the money from if I have the resources to execute?
Now, we'll keep bringing more HVAC projects, obviously, with 8% funding. I mean, that's gonna be our source going forward. But you see, we have a pretty large gap that at this point, it's not a funding issue. We have the funding, it's the manpower issue. But going forward, it's gonna be both funding and manpower. Because, we'll use up those funds we have, hopefully, here moving forward, but we have to do as much as we can in order to get these units taken care of.
Does your planning now, or the way you intend to plan, will you get completion by the due date?
We have
I know you
not-
haven't gone it.
I was gonna say, what we can do before we look at the 8% funding in March, April. Is maybe come up a plan for 2030, what it would take.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, that's
Just physically be monetarily what it would take to get there. Not saying that the contractor pool is currently available, and recognize that the rest of the United States is in this same situation. It's not a Beaufort County specific, it's the whole United States. And that's one of the problems we're having just with HVAC units and supply chain issues, is that everybody's in this boat. And with the Inflation Reduction Act, now, there's a lot of money out there.
a lot of money.
Let me move forward. I want to talk about the labor issues here.
Before you go off of that though, if there's a projected shortage of labor on an existing one now, it behooves us to get to the front of the parade.
Yes.
So, saddle HR with how you're gonna develop some innovative programs to help us attract it. And then you can fold that into your computation of, do we need to bring people from elsewhere? Because we wanna make sure we're one of the premier districts that actually meets that deadline.
But also, I would ask a question too, in terms of that, we have a scheduled time of, that's why you put that book out too, to kind of let us know what changes and what schools will be up on the, on the chopping block. So I would want to know, in terms of that, how will we be going off of that set schedule that we have already planned? And well, not really chopping blocks, but in terms of schedule, as in by this time here, we know that this HBC unit is this old, so we're scheduling it. Yeah, so basically, moving off of that schedule to doing what the conversation is now. How are we? How when moving off of that schedule? What effect will it have? And how will we basically very strategically keep it and in line with the end goal?
It's kind of tracking a plan to get there by 2030 and how we're progressing. I mean, the study was done in 2022, so obviously, but it hit, what I say, 28 million needed. We've only spent 12.5, so as of right now, we haven't done what we needed in 2022.
Right.
So that tells you we have issues. Right, energy usage, we've gone over energy usage last week, so we won't really go in detail, but of course, this has a major impact on it. And as we saw, our energy use cost per square foot stayed pretty consistent until the last year, and then it has gone up recently. Here's that chart, actually, just like the water and sewer usage. You see that in August, we had that jump up. You see the costs have gone up in the last year substantially. So this is a 4-year look ahead. And you see that August had a jump up, which again, we use our buildings more, so that not surprising, and we're probably gonna see that going forward as well. And then you also had a jump up in June, because we're actually doing more summer programs. Energy usage, again, when you're looking at that cost per square foot, you see that in that second chart, it's trending higher, something to keep track of. So let's get to key challenges. So technology upgrades. So as we move forward with the transition away from R22, they are also phasing out 410A, which replaced R22. And now, just this year, they stopped the production of 410A and they're moving on to R454B or R32, which we do not have a unit yet of that type, but all the HVAC manufacturers are retooling their factories to change to the new refrigerant that's going to be coming out in future HVAC units. The other thing we got to keep working on are smart HVAC systems using automated controls, and which will help us monitor both energy savings and give us information about issues that we have. We talk about COVID-19 and indoor air quality. COVID-19 brought a laser focus on indoor air quality, and we've continued that. And in response to that, BCSD installed bipolar ionization systems on all our large HVAC units located in communal areas such as gyms, cafeterias, and media centers. We've talked about this before. And then let's talk about our maintenance and workforce struggles. Our preventive maintenance program is consistently underperformed. Many PM tasks such as filter changing coils, greasing bearings are often incomplete or incorrectly executed, which leads to equipment failure and emergency repairs. The HVAC team has struggled with staffing shortages, particularly following the COVID-19 pandemic, when there was an increased demand for skilled workers, which led to rising wages. This has resulted in lower quality recruits and slower repair times, with the district often relying on outside contractors to complete complex repairs. So our workforce challenges, one of the things has been managerial turnover, which Brandy talked about just in her maintenance update. And then our technical expertise amongst the HVAC team have significantly reduced the team's ability to manage emergency issues. Post-COVID-19 salary inflation has created recruitment challenges with vacancies and reduced talent pool, leading to a slower response time and increased management backlogs. And then in September 2024, BCSD put our HVAC contractor on a notice to cure, where we used outside contractors who were brought in to supplement the team, who were able to successfully repair units deemed unrepairable by our current maintenance contractor. This reveals gaps in the internal team's diagnostic capabilities. If you see there, like the little segment I got of information over there talking about jobs, they're saying that they're expecting growth of 9% in HVAC jobs in the next 10 years. While unfortunately, let me just see, there's been with an expected growth of 9% over the next 10 years. This growth is needed reversal after the number of HVAC technicians has declined by more than 50% over the past decade. So our need is increasing, our number of technicians is declining. That's a national problem. So what are our future goals? We got to prioritize energy efficiency and sustainability by making that helps with our reduced power consumption and operational costs over time. This includes phasing out older systems that rely on R22 and also R410A, and moving forward with the new refrigerants. You can count on smart HVAC systems that use our computerized maintenance management system that helps us monitor our systems, enable faster response to malfunctions, and allowing for predictive maintenance. That's where we want to head, is into a predictive maintenance pattern. This proactive approach will extend the life of HVAC equipment, minimize downtime, and reduce repair costs. Already talked about regulatory compliance, we talked about that very much again. Workforce development, and maintenance overhaul, which is what you were alluding to, Mr. Dallas, a while ago. We need to address these challenges, so one of the things, we're gonna need to restructure our HVAC department. This includes, gonna be some change with our technicians and PM crews to introduce better oversight, implement performance-based accountability measures for the contractors. The district's also gonna focus on talent development, overall competitive salaries, and ongoing training to ensure staff manage the increasing complexity of modern HVAC systems. The systems are getting more complicated, they're getting more sophisticated. We have not increased our sophistication to meet that need as we're going forward. So our evaluation, what are our strengths? What have we done well? We were in an earlier adoption into the building management system. We've had all our systems online since the mid-2000s, and we're able to monitor that. We need to keep that up and improve that. Skilled personnel, y'all all, JD Atkinson, who's our energy manager, is reported to you. Extremely talented HVAC technician and manager, and also is able to manage our overall HVAC systems. Another thing, community support. We've had money approved, so the district has had HVAC funding with 32.5 million allocated since 2022. And then the other thing that we've done well is our indoor air quality improvements with bipolar ionization systems that have been integrated into our existing HVAC systems. One thing that part of this, putting this report together and looking into this, had us look into the U.S. Department of Energy's Efficient and Healthy Schools program, which we have since joined. And then on September 26th, our operations staff met with the New Building Institute that has brought forward this program. So it's in its infancy, and we're just getting started, but we're already seeing some pretty good relationship building. They're actually just there to help. We've talked about our struggles and what our issues are. They've talked about putting us together with like-minded districts that have maybe tackled some of those problems. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to find answers to all of our issues, but they've also provided us with webinars and training. So I think that's going to be a very good partnership, and look forward to using that going forward. Okay. Areas for improvement. Now, I think, Mr. Dallas, you'll love, as I was putting this report together, I came across this little snippet from the Wall Street Journal. Did you see that from November 12th of this month? It's entitled America's New Millionaire Class, Plumbers and HVAC Entrepreneurs. And this just floored me in saying that private equity investors have purchased nearly 800 HVAC plumbing and electrical companies since 2022. There is a massive change afoot to the market, whether good or bad. But what that tells you is a lot of money to be made in it out there, and private equity is noticing, which I would never have thought of. So what do we need to do going forward? Number one, preventive maintenance. Our PM program needs significant improvement to prevent system failures and reduce emergency repairs. Our workforce quality has to improve. Recruitment challenges due to the rising wages have reduced the quality of recruits. We need to find a solution to that. And then our contract structure. Our current maintenance contract has led to, it's more of a complete work order type system. Check it off, get it done quickly without actually investing in our equipment. So we need to form a more robust performance-based contract structure to improve our long-term outcomes. And just go on to the action plan. I'll bring that up. So what are we going to do? First thing we're going to do is develop an HVAC contractor scope of work. So we're going to base this closely to what we have as far as a roofing contract. we used to have significant issues with roof leaks, and it took us several years to work through a contract structure that we have today. That what we have are 3 on-call roofing contractors that deal with our roofing issues. And knock on wood, it's not that we don't have roofing issues, but we have a good system in place to address those issues and address them quickly. And we need to do something similar with HVAC, and that's what we're going to look to do moving forward. We need to restructure our maintenance department. So we need to, and part of that's going to be improving our preventive maintenance checklists, preventive maintenance team, develop checklists, and introduce oversight mechanism to ensure tasks are completed correctly. We're actually going to start that tomorrow. We're meeting with our HVAC team tomorrow morning, where we're going to do, I guess you could say, lessons learned over the summer with that group, and try to get that information from them prior to moving forward with any major adjustments to our HVAC team structure. So that starting tonight, and it'll continue first thing tomorrow morning. Outstanding. One of the things we got to do is transition to a new software system for tracking PMs. We have to update our system in 2025. So as part of that, need to adjust to, we're getting timed out. We're needing to move forward with a new update to the system. As part of that, we need to improve our tracking of PMs. And then, just at the same time, our maintenance RFP will come out in 2025. So we need to develop a contract that ensures performance standards are met with financial penalties for incomplete work, and also providing necessary training for HVAC staff. With that, I'll take any questions you have.
Okay, Mr. Nate? Thank you, Ms. Otter.
Negative, thank you.
Sorry, okay, Mr. Campbell?
No, I don't have anything on that part.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith? I want to congratulate you for all the work you put in. It's a very detailed report, very expansive. You're looking at the continuum from the problem historically where it is now. Your due dates are not dead dates. And I would encourage you to continue the path you're going, but I also would suggest you look at it as almost a revolutionary surgical solution. Oh, yeah. And you think outside the block. So to secure labor that can do this massive upgrade, when you bring HVAC, the school district import HVAC company into the school district. So you have a captive labor market that's been done elsewhere. So when Y2K came up, right, and everybody was trying to say, oh, look, all the computer experts, and we can't find them. Okay, so the recommendation was we bring them in-house. We create out there, that's a private company. We create our own private company. Now we get first dibs on. If there's not work to satisfy the financial demand that they bring, then we let them go work elsewhere. So I'm just using that as an example of how to really don't be constrained by what has historically been done. Think about the magnitude of the solution and how you get there. When President Kennedy said we're going to put a person on the moon, and by the end of the decade, it actually happened when everybody was saying it can't be done. But that's a mobilizing goal and challenge. And so you and I have had this conversation. You are so talented in putting all your skills and the skills of your department on an issue like this. It's all win-win.
What we're doing is not working. We're going to have to do something drastically different.
Absolutely. And when it comes time to make that presentation, I would really encourage you to have that sort of ideation meeting where you bring people together and no constraints. No one's going to be ridiculed for thinking something that has never been considered before, or you say that's heresy. Water won't flow uphill. Right? Someone may end up being able to do that, but just
unleash all of the talents in your department and say, no constraints, though. Here's a due date, drop dead, we'll deliver come heck or high water. And how do we do it? With all those constraints, labor, technology, the sunsetting in R22 and R410. Right? Those are, you know, existential things for the way we do things. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for your team. Does that mean good? Sir. Everybody okay? All right, what else? Thank you.
We have one more item.
Okay. Go ahead.
Executive
We
session.
need a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Nay,
So moved.
all right, second, all in favor, aye?
For the
Aye.
property purchase in Northern Beaufort County.
Okay, so edited to incorporate that, and you get a unanimous vote, okay? We in executive session?
Well, we do, and you're lucky enough to get to. You know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Miller, thank you.